Warrior Lore. Chapter 2239. Rumble. The jet-black light beam and the scarlet-blue flame are collided. The surrounding space shattered inch by inch, and everything was obliterated. In the next moment, from the depths of the void, a huge black shadow appeared. It was like a black sun, and it was filled with a soul-stealing demonic energy. It was incomparably grand. Hualazi, you've angered me. Within the black, sun-like demonic energy, a black shadow stood tall. It carried a terrifying aura, and its jet-black eyes were like two black holes. The black holes were filled with overflowing killing intent as it stared at Hualazi. The scene of blood, corpses, and all living things wailing appeared in his mind. It was incomparably terrifying. Great demon, do you still want to be suppressed? Hualazi retreated. He looked at the huge black shadow and waved his fist. His voice was melodious like an ancient bell, but it carried a destructive ancient intent as it resounded through the void. In the past battle, if it weren't for your tricks, how could you have suppressed me? The black shadow spoke. Its voice was sinister and filled with unwillingness and anger. Demonic energy shook the universe, and its eyes seemed like the underworld. It was extremely terrifying. I'll suppress you again today. Hualazi raised his eyebrows. Hualazi, you're dead for sure today. The Nine-Demon Emperor spoke. His gaze was sinister. He couldn't do anything to Hualazi, but the situation had been reversed. What's there to be afraid of if you two join hands? Back then, even the Five Elements Demon Emperor was killed. You two are still far from enough. Hualazi said indifferently. Humph. Do you think that the so-called Dragon God and the Master of the 3,000 Great Worlds can still enter? The Nine-Demon Emperor shouted angrily. He's stalling for time. You go and chase after him. Leave this Hualazi to me. The great demon's expression suddenly changed, as if he had realized something. The black shadow fluctuated, and demonic energy surged. Bastard! The Nine-Demon Emperor cursed. He understood why Hualazi was so long-winded. It turned out that he was stalling for time. He immediately tore open the void and chased after him. Hualazi's expression changed. His gaze sunk, and a smile appeared on his face. Nine-Demon, let's continue. Continue. Fire lightning, let's continue. The great demon made his move to block Hualazi. Terrifying demonic chi fluctuated like a black sun in the sky. A jet-black light palm slammed out, causing the space to tremble. The demonic chi was like thick ink floating in the void, deep and dark. The fire lightning seed was obstructed. The scarlet-blue flame arcs that filled the sky transformed into fist imprints that collided with the fire lightning seed amidst the deafening sound of thunder. Rumble. This collision rumbled through the nine heavens, and layers of energy ripples spread out, obliterating everything. The night was coming to an end. The towering forest in the savage beast mountain range looked toward the east, as if it was waiting for the first light of dawn. Dawn quietly covered the night, and a gray ray of light passed through the hazy brown sky, smearing the gloomy shadow with a layer of faint white fog. The sky gradually brightened. Humph! Ha! Inside the stone city, the sound of people practicing martial arts could be heard everywhere. The stone city valued martial arts, and men and women began practicing martial arts and forging at a young age. On the streets, groups of twos and threes gradually appeared. The merchants who had woken up early were already preparing for a busy day. The imperial palace was quiet, and under the morning light, there was a golden afterglow. In the depths of the imperial palace, the grass of immortality and nether insight grass were suffused with brilliance, spreading out rich energy that benefited the entire stone city. Crackle! Suddenly, the void above the stone city's imperial palace was torn open. Swoosh, swoosh. Several figures rushed out from the crack, and their auras spread out, shaking the stone city in the early morning. These figures were naturally Du Xiaofu, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoao, and the others who had returned from the Demon King's palace. Du Xiaofu spread his golden wings and placed his master, venerable weapon, and senior uncles, Kuang Zun, and the others in the void. Boom! Suddenly, Kuang Zun, 9 lives venerable, and Qian Xing's eyes rippled with demonic chi again. and a blood-red color began to surge out from the depths of their eyes. Your first martial uncle, fifth martial uncle, and seventh martial uncle are affected by the demonic chi. Venerable Weapon's eyes narrowed. That 9-demon emperor is chasing us. Du Xiaoyao looked into the depths of the void. That 9-demon emperor had chased them all the way to the stone city, and it seemed that he would not give up. Rock Emperor. Big Brother. Whoosh whoosh. Inside the imperial palace, several figures rushed out like lightning. Mo Tianxiao, Du Yunlong, Jin Xingchun, Yi Lao, Du Xiaoman, Dongfang Qingmu, Han Aodong, and Du Xiaoqing soared into the sky. Martial uncles, I'm sorry. Du Xiaofu formed a hand seal, and a dazzling silver-gold lightning bolt shot out from his forehead. It split into 3 and entered Kuang Zun, 9 lives venerable, and Qian Xing's foreheads in an instant. Kuang Zun and the others had just been affected by the demonic qi, and their eyes immediately closed as if they had lost consciousness. Brother Qing Chun, Yi Lao, Little Tiger, put my martial uncles into the dark seeker grass. Use it to cleanse and suppress the demonic qi. Du Xiaofu said, and handed Kuang Zun, 9 lives venerable, and Qian Xing to Jin Xingchun, Little Tiger, and Yi Lao. Jin Xingchun, Yi Lao, and Little Tiger looked at Du Xiaofu's expression and realized the seriousness of the matter. They nodded and took Kuang Zun and the others, and immediately left. Phew! Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and looked into the depths of the void. The golden wings on his back flapped, and the azure armor on his body rippled with lightning. The 9 demon emperors' pursuit couldn't escape Du Xiaofu's sharp senses. The 9 demon emperors didn't give up and chased all the way to Stone City. Everyone, retreat to the imperial palace. Du Xiaofu ordered his mother, Du Yunlong, Mo Tianxiao, Yi Piaoling, Gu Che, and the others to retreat to the imperial palace. A strong enemy is attacking. Citizens of Stone City, retreat. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's voice echoed throughout Stone City, landing in the ears of millions of citizens. It's the Rock Emperor. Another strong enemy is attacking our Stone City. Everyone, be careful. Who cares who it is? We will advance or retreat with the Rock Emperor. In an instant, the entire Stone City shook. Figures rushed out, and the Bai and Yi families moved together. Countless people rushed out from the streets. The citizens of Stone City didn't retreat, but instead advanced. They had seen Stone City in trouble too many times and had never retreated. Who dares to invade our desolate country? North vanquishing king, South vanquishing king, and the other old kings walked out. Their figures were much stronger than before, and their strength had improved a lot over the years. Little bastard, do you think you can escape? Suddenly, the sky trembled, and such a voice came from the depths of the void. A pitch-black spatial crack tore open, and a monstrous hair that made the heavens and earth tremble erupted from within. A black figure stepped out from the spatial crack, and then appeared in the void above Stone City, appearing in the eyes of the entire Stone City. This figure was accompanied by a terrifying demonic aura that swept out, causing the billions of people in Stone City to tremble in fear. The weaker ones trembled and knelt on the ground, unable to resist. Chapter 2240. Boom! At the same time, the entire Stone City trembled. A dazzling golden light burst out from within the vast palace. It was as if a dazzling golden rainbow had rushed out and traversed the void. It flowed with golden brilliance and was dazzling as it illuminated the entire Stone City. Buzz! There was a heavenly sound that resonated with heaven and earth. It was as if it had fallen into everyone's ears, causing their hearts to surge. In this short moment, everyone in the Stone City was dumbfounded. They saw with their own eyes that the entire palace seemed to have come to life. Strands of golden light swept out like rainbows, filling the void and enveloping the entire palace. Above the void, golden light overflowed in all directions. Roar! In the center of the palace, a nimble longsword swept out and let out a dragon's roar. In an instant, it turned into a 1,000-foot-long golden dragon phantom. An earth-shattering dragon's roar also resounded between heaven and earth. Roar! The golden dragon soared into the sky like a real dragon, surrounding Du Xiaofu in the center. It raised its head and roared, shaking the clouds. The golden light was boundless, distorting the void. It contained a mysterious power. Endless luck merged with heaven and earth, as if it could resonate with heaven and earth, forming an extremely powerful and majestic force. Under such a terrifying aura, it was as if heaven's luck was toppling mountains and overturning seas. The living beings in all directions trembled. Countless people's faces turned pale, and their bodies trembled. However, the citizens of the Stone City were protected, blocking a lot of the monstrous demonic chi brought by the Nine-Demon Emperor. Imperial power bestowed by heaven, surrounded by a golden dragon. This is the supreme human emperor. Dugu Fenshin, who had retreated into the palace, could not help but exclaim when he saw the strange scene. This was not the power that an ordinary human emperor should have. This was the supreme human emperor. Looking at the power at this moment, the Nine-Demon Emperor, who was above the void, silently focused, and the expression on his face changed a lot. Boom! Above the palace, Du Xiaofu moved. He stepped out and stepped on the Golden Dragon Phantom. The Golden Dragon Phantom was formed by the new life seal, Tyrant Shadow, and it was connected to his body. Instantly, the entire sky was filled with dazzling golden light. Du Xiaofu stood on top of the Golden Dragon, unmoving like a boulder. Du Xiaofu's figure was tall and straight. The azure armor on his body and the golden wings on his back made him look even more like a real Peng. Waves of vast energy waves spread out from him, connecting with the heavens and earth and trembling with the heavens and earth. Oh, aoo! The Imperial Palace's dragon chi soared into the sky and turned into golden dragon shadows that circled around the surroundings. They covered the sky of the Stone City and roared continuously. The Imperial Palace's draconic chi permeated the heavens and the earth. This was the momentum of the heavens and the earth, causing Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Mo Tianxiao, and the others to be secretly shocked. This was a miracle. The rumbling was clearly incessant, and heaven and earth were trembling. But the entire world seemed to have fallen silent at this moment. Only the dragon's roar shook the heavens and resounded through the 9 heavens. Imperial power bestowed by the heavens, the supreme human emperor. The venerated weapon blurted out. The venerated weapon Xiahou Fenglei was most familiar with the Imperial Palace's draconic chi and the new seal of the barren country. He was the one who refined the new natal seal. The tyrannical shadow was originally Du Xiaofu's natal weapon. The venerated weapon refined the natal seal so that Du Xiaofu could use the natal weapon as the foundation to bear the fate of the country and the great fortune of the heavens and earth. If he was not careful, he would not be able to bear it and would be reduced to ashes. But at this moment, the venerated weapon knew that his disciple had succeeded and obtained the legendary supreme benefits. He was blessed by the heavens and had become the supreme human emperor. Oh! Wind and thunder rumbled, and the roars of dragons, tigers, birds, and turtles resounded. Du Xiaofu waved his hand, and the purple-gold heavenly tower appeared in his hand. Du Xiaofu stood tall and straight on top of the golden dragon in the Stone City's royal palace. He looked at the 9-demon emperor in the sky and pointed the purple-gold celestial tower at him. Golden light shone brightly, and only his eyes were cold and sharp. He was extremely domineering, but he showed that he was a supreme ruler who ruled over the world and could not be provoked. He then said, "Come on." At this moment, Du Xiaofu's voice was like heavenly thunder, shaking the void. Accompanied by the Imperial Palace's draconic chi, the entire vast Imperial Palace trembled. It was as if a godly emperor from the divine world had descended to the mortal world. How shocking was this? When these words fell into the ears of millions of creatures, they were all accompanied by the majesty of the heavens. Rock Emperor is brave. Protect the barren country. Rock Emperor is invincible. Protect the barren country. Rock Emperor. At this moment, an old man in the Stone City shouted and knelt on the ground. Rock Emperor is invincible. Protect the barren country. Rock Emperor is invincible. Protect the barren country. In an instant, the entire Stone City citizens knelt on the ground and shouted loudly. In the eyes of the citizens of the Stone City, The Rock Emperor was a god. Now that a strong enemy had invaded, he should be suppressed and killed in the barren country. Rumble. The cries of millions of citizens came from the bottom of their hearts. A mysterious power gushed out and was channeled by the imperial palace's draconic chi and condensed in the void. This mysterious power was so dense that it could be seen with the naked eye. Traces of mysterious energy rose from the bodies of the people in the city. The more devout one was, the purer and denser the mysterious energy in one's body. It surged towards Du Xiaofu in the void. This mysterious power gathered together and continuously supported Du Xiaofu. Roar. Under this mysterious power, the golden dragon shadows circling Du Xiaofu's body became more and more resplendent. The draconic chi shook the sky and resonated with the heaven and earth. At this moment, Du Xiaofu accepted the vast power and merged with the heaven and earth. As he absorbed the mysterious power of the city, Du Xiaofu became hazy and unfathomable. His entire body was wrapped in a golden mist. He gathered the fortune of a country and condensed the dragon veins of a country. Golden dragon shadows appeared in the void one after another. Du Xiaofu was in the sky, and a miracle was in the world, vast and mighty in the sky. Rock Emperor is invincible. Our Emperor is invincible. Our Emperor is invincible. Such a miracle made the citizens of the city tremble even more. They all worshipped and called out to their emperor. Shouts after shouts gathered together like heavenly thunder, accompanied by a mysterious force that shook the heavens and the earth. At this moment, Mo Tianxiao, Lian Qing, Yi Piaoling, and the other supremes in the imperial palace were also shocked. This was the power of faith gathered by hundreds of millions of citizens. It was the source of the imperial palace's dragon chi. It was incomparably powerful, and even supremes like them had to retreat. The entire stone city was vast and mighty, and everyone was chanting the Rock Emperor's name. In the void, the Nine-Demon Emperor was also trembling inwardly. He couldn't stop this at all. The dense imperial palace's dragon chi was the most terrifying imperial palace's dragon chi he had ever seen in his life. The golden dragon shadows formed by the imperial palace's dragon chi filled the void, making that brat's aura hazy and unfathomable. Even the Nine-Demon Emperor was trembling inwardly. Brat, is this what you're relying on? Without the fire lightning seed, no one can save you anymore. The Nine-Demon Emperor calmed his trembling heart and looked at Du Xiaofu. His eyes were cold and ruthless. Today, he was going to deal with this brat once and for all. Come, I'll kill you just like how I killed the wind, fire, ice, thunder, and earth devil envoys. Du Xiaofu raised his sword and looked straight at the Nine-Demon Emperor. At this moment, the imperial palace's dragon chi was gathered, and the country's dragon veins were supporting it. The new natal seal was in place, and it was protected by the heavens. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had the aura of a true rock and the might of a human emperor. The demon king was domineering and disdainful. Chapter 22:41. The lives of the 5 demon envoys will be repaid with your life. At the mention of the 5 demon envoys, the cold light in the 9 demon emperor's eyes intensified. He suppressed the trembling in his heart and released his demonic aura as he swung his claws down. Chi-La black runes appeared as the claws tore through the void, creating 5 pitch-black cracks in the void. Accompanied by the cries of ghosts, strands of demonic aura pounced out like evil spirits. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, tearing open pitch-black cracks in the void. They spread across the sky and directly grabbed at Du Xiaofu. Such a scene caused the hearts of all living beings to palpitate in fear. Boom! Roar! Du Xiaofu moved. The giant golden dragon beneath his feet roared. His entire body was accompanied by the imperial palace's dragon aura. Numerous golden dragon shadows circled around his body. It was extremely shocking. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's every move contained the power of heaven and earth. It carried the might of heaven and earth. It was supreme and invincible. A powerful oppressive aura surged. It was more than 10 million pounds heavy and could push in all directions. Wong. Du Xiaofu swung his sword and slashed out with the purple-gold heavenly tower. This sword was not fancy at all. It contained the dominating sword Tao. The sword radiance was like millions of purple-gold thunderbolts descending, accompanied by an incomparably domineering and peerless destruction. Such a peerless sword was accompanied by the shadow of a golden dragon. Boom! This sword was peerless and violent, shaking the mountains and rivers. The entire stone city and the entire desolate country suddenly trembled. Within the 8,000 miles long river in the central region, the waves surged and the mountains and rivers trembled. Chi, the sword radiance filled the sky. Wherever it passed, the space collapsed. Heaven and earth were in chaos. The endless imperial palace's dragon aura soared. The heavenly might was awe-inspiring. The universe trembled, and heaven and earth rumbled. Such a sword might shocked everyone. Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaojing, the old monster of Green Fox, and Du Tingxian were all dumbfounded at this moment. In the imperial palace, with the help of the imperial palace's dragon aura, the country's dragon vein, and the country's destiny, Du Xiaofu could actually be so terrifying. The imperial palace's dragon aura was indeed the most mysterious and unfathomable thing. Rumble. The sword radiance and the claw print collided with each other in the void like lightning. Endless demonic chi and radiance burst out and swept across the sky. Everything was being erased, the void collapsing, extending into the distance. Then, it instantly recovered. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Du Xiaofu's sword blocked the 9 demon emperor's attack. Du Xiaofu stepped on the giant dragon with the golden dragon circling around him. The golden wings of the great Peng behind his back shone with boundless golden light. He was still incomparably domineering. His momentum was heavenly, and he looked disdainfully at everyone. The 9 demon emperor was obviously startled and shocked. This kid was only at the initial stage of the sage realm, but he had managed to block his attack. The imperial palace's dragon aura actually possessed such power. The 9 demon emperor's heart trembled. This was too inconceivable. This brat was really strange. Without any delay, the 9 demon emperor's gaze turned gloomy to the extreme. Demonic chi gathered in the surroundings like a huge black star. It was as if the heavenly dog had devoured the sun. A huge black star emitted a terrifying black light. Black lightning fluctuated and hung in the sky. Aowu! At this moment, a demon roared in the sky. It was like a thunderous roar. It shook the mountains and rivers for no reason. It was as if the sky was going to shatter. The entire stone city trembled as if an earthquake was happening. The mournful cries of ghosts and the howls of gods could be heard. It made people's hair stand on end. Let's see how many moves you can block. The 9 demon emperor's figure disappeared into the huge black star. Then, he pushed the huge black star down. Countless demonic shadows appeared in the void. They were wailing mournfully. Baleful aura soared into the sky. Demonic chi surged. Just the baleful chi alone was enough to make the billions of living beings in the stone city tremble. If it wasn't for the imperial palace's dragon aura protecting them, it would be enough to suppress all the living beings in the stone city. Feeling the might of the 9 demon emperor, which was obviously more powerful and terrifying than the previous attack, Du Tingxian, Little Xingxing, and the others narrowed their eyes. 9 demon emperor, this is not a place for you to act presumptuously. Suddenly, such an aged voice resounded. Resplendent green light suddenly rose from the void like a green sun. A hazy figure quietly appeared. It was like a giant overlooking the mountains and rivers. It was wrapped in divine light. Chi-La, countless pairs of eyes watched as the hazy figure appeared. A vast aura instantly spread out, and green light filled the sky. The figure stretched out his hand, and a dazzling and translucent pillar of light, which looked like a divine chain of green light, shot out in an instant. The beam of light pierced through the void like a bolt of green lightning. The brilliance of vitality rippled like divine splendor. It directly swept into the terrifying black star. Old tree, I'm not done with you. Within the black star, the 9 demon emperors' roar shook the sky. Billowing demonic chi soared into the sky. Bang, bang, bang. But then, the black star cracked, and the demonic chi in the sky exploded. The sound was like thunder. The green light and the demonic chi rolled back at the same time, sweeping across the sky. Many pitch-black, spatial cracks hung in the void, making people tremble in fear. The 9 demon emperor's figure appeared. He looked forward with an extremely unsightly expression. Above the void, within the resplendent green light, a middle-aged man with long green hair appeared. He stood with his hands behind his back. His long robe fluttered slightly, and his eyes were deep and vast. When he saw this person, Du Xiaofu immediately revealed a smile. Since the heavenly wood divine tree had come, he was no longer afraid of the 9 demon emperor. Old tree, you won't be able to escape this calamity. The 9 demon emperor glared at the heavenly wood divine tree. Back then, he had been suppressed under the heavenly Yu mountain for so long. Now that it had interfered, this was a new enmity on top of old hatred. Do you think you can do anything to me? You ran out. When East Immortal, South Ru, West Demon, and the others arrive, you won't be able to escape this calamity. The heavenly wood divine tree said indifferently to the 9 demon emperor. Hearing this, the 9 demon emperor's eyes darkened. He was clearly somewhat afraid. He looked at the heavenly wood divine tree and Du Xiaofu, who was supported by the imperial palace's dragon chi, and the corners of his eyes fiercely twitched. Old tree, kid, you don't have much time. You won't be able to jump around for much longer. The next time we meet, it will be the time of your death. The 9 demon emperor said maliciously. His anger surged, but he knew that there was nothing he could do. It was already difficult for him to deal with the heavenly wood divine tree alone, not to mention that the kid was now supported by the imperial palace's dragon chi. He had become incomparably mysterious and difficult to deal with. Although the 9 demon emperor was unwilling, he could only leave first. If East Immortal, South Ru, West Demon, and the others came, he would really be afraid. Chi, as soon as he finished speaking, the 9 demon emperor tore through the void and left. The monstrous demon chi slowly dissipated, and sunlight gradually poured into the dusky stone city. Phew! Inside the imperial palace, Du Tingxian, Du Zhixiang, and the others secretly sighed in relief. Du Tingxian, Han Aodong, Old Monster Green Fox, and Du Xiaoyao also quietly relaxed their frowns. Greetings, senior. The imperial palace's dragon chi, Tyrant Shadow, Great Pung Golden Wings, Azure Spirit Armor, and Purple Gold Heavenly Tower all withdrew. Du Xiaofu bowed to the heavenly wood divine tree. Greetings, senior. Du Tingxian, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaojing, and the others also stepped forward and bowed. Old Monster Green Fox also kept his head lowered. He was extremely respectful to the heavenly wood divine tree. No need to be so polite. The heavenly wood divine tree waved its hand at everyone as it looked at Du Xiaofu. Quite a bit of shock secretly flashed across its eyes. To be able to block an attack from Juemo Huang, this brat was truly abnormal. After a while, deep inside the imperial palace, in the main hall of the Du family, the heavenly wood divine tree sat on the seat of honor. Du Xiaofu sat beside it. In the main hall, only Du Xiaoding, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaojing, Du Xiaoyao, Han Aodong, and Old Monster Green Fox were accompanying them. The heavenly wood divine tree was secretly shocked. From Du Xiaofu and the others, it finally knew why the 9 demon emperor had chased them to the stone city. Originally, it was still suspicious. It did not know what this kid had done to attract the 9 demon emperor here. But now, it knew that this kid had gone to the 9 demon emperor's demon emperor palace and destroyed it. They had saved several people from under the 9 demon emperor's nose and even killed the 5 demon envoys of the devil religion. This was simply a slap to the 9 demon emperor's face. You guys are really gutsy. Fortunately, those demon emperors are in seclusion. That demon god shouldn't come out for a while. The heavenly wood divine tree looked at Du Xiaofu and the others with a faint azure light in its eyes. The demon emperor palace was definitely not easy to break through. Even with Flamespark, it was definitely not enough. Master is imprisoned. As a disciple, how can I not save her? Du Xiaofu did not regret it. Even though he knew it was dangerous, if he had to choose again, he would still choose to go without hesitation. Looking at Du Xiaofu, the heavenly wood divine tree did not say anything. It only inwardly praised him. Then, From the heavenly wood divine tree, Du Xiaofu learned that Dongli Qingqing was in seclusion to make a breakthrough. Senior has helped me many times. I will remember it. Du Xiaofu spoke with a stern expression. His heart was filled with gratitude. Not long ago, the heavenly wood divine tree had helped him outside of legalism. This was already several times the heavenly wood divine tree had helped him. Chapter 22:42. There's no need to thank me. Perhaps Fang Jijia will need our help soon, said the heavenly wood divine tree. Senior, I'll do my best, Du Xiaofu replied. Whether it was the heavenly wood divine tree's kindness or his relationship with Dongli Qingqing, he would do his best to help Fang Jijia. Don't agree too early. This isn't an ordinary matter. It's extremely dangerous. Once that day comes, it won't be while you're challenging the Devil King's palace, said the heavenly wood divine tree to Du Xiaofu. I'm willing to advance and retreat together with Fang Jijia, Du Xiaofu said seriously. He could guess that it would be related to a famous school. He had already challenged the Legalism Palace and the Devil King's Palace, so he didn't mind going to a famous school. Okay. The heavenly wood divine tree nodded. I wonder if Huolei Laozu is in trouble. Du Xiaofu was a bit worried. Huolei Laozu was blocked by the Great Devil King. The Great Devil King wasn't an ordinary kind of strong. Don't worry. With that old fellow's methods, even if the devil god personally acted, it wouldn't be easy to stop him. The heavenly wood divine tree didn't mind. Du Xiaofu relaxed a bit, but Huolei Laozu still hadn't returned, so he was still worried. Don't worry, that old fellow has already returned. The heavenly wood divine tree suddenly smiled and said to Du Xiaofu, I was just about to find that old fellow to discuss some matters. After saying that, the heavenly wood divine tree disappeared from the hall. Du Xiaofu, Du Tingxian, and the others could only bitterly smile and finally relax. After leaving the hall, Du Xiaofu saw his master, Xiahou Fenglei, in a side hall of the Du family. After greeting him, he looked at his master's weathered face and felt his heart ache. His master must have suffered a lot these years. Silly boy, I didn't suffer much. On the contrary, I gained a lot of benefits. Otherwise, I wouldn't have broken through so quickly. I have to thank the devil religion, Xiahou Fenglei said with a smile. At this moment, he was in a very good mood. He had already washed up and changed into a new set of robes. One could still vaguely see the majesty of the past on his weathered face. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiahou Fenglei's aura shook. A dazzling lightning flame rose from his palm, capable of burning the void. Half-Saint Talisman Master. Du Xiaofu was a little surprised as he felt the aura of his master. His master had reached the level of Semi-Saint Spirit Talisman Master. When he had been taken away by the devil religion, his master had just set foot on the level of 9-star Spirit Talisman Master. This progress was really too amazing. The devil religion seems to have a way to cultivate spirit thunder. They want to cultivate a new 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed in my body. Therefore, they invested a lot of heavenly treasures, which inadvertently allowed me to break through, Xiahou Fenglei said with a smile. However, there was a hint of bitterness in his smile. Du Xiaofu was a little shocked. Could the devil religion really cultivate a spirit thunder soul seed? No wonder the devil religion attached so much importance to his master, and even personally guarded by the 9 Devil Emperor. The mysterious black talisman pattern chain on the strange stone pillar seemed to be fluctuating with energy. It was connected to his master's soul. It turned out that they wanted to cultivate a new 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed. By the way, Master, the 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed is still in my body. Master, you are fine. I will return it to its rightful owner. Then, Du Xiaofu came back to his senses. The 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed had always been in his body. At this moment, he should return it to his master. The spirit thunder soul seed was too important for people who had fused with spirit thunder. Haha, Xiahou Fenglei laughed and formed a seal with his hand. A sparkling and translucent lightning flame gushed out from between his eyebrows. The aura was scorching and terrifying. 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed. Du Xiaofu couldn't help but exclaim. This was clearly the aura of the 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed. The devil religion really can cultivate a spirit thunder soul seed. Du Xiaofu looked at Xiahou Fenglei in astonishment. He was incomparably shocked. The devil religion really could cultivate a 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed. Hearing this, Xiahou Fenglei shook his head and withdrew the resplendent lightning flame from between his eyebrows. He said to Du Xiaofu, "How can a person cultivate a spirit thunder soul seed just because they want to? Because I have the 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed in my body. The 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed has already fused with my body. Therefore, I have the opportunity to cultivate a new spirit thunder soul seed. It is still a bit lacking. So that's how it is." Du Xiaofu's astonished mood calmed down a lot. However, this was already very heaven-defying. He didn't expect that the devil religion still had such a method. The 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed in Master's body is not yet complete. The 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed should be returned to Master, Du Xiaofu said. No, Xiahou Fenglei looked at Du Xiaofu. Then, he slightly raised his head. There were fluctuations of lightning flame in his eyes. He said, "The new 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed may be my opportunity to enter the saint realm." Then, Xiahou Fenglei lowered his head and patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder. He said, "Fuse with the 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed. It is useless for me to keep it. You need to increase your strength. The spirit thunder soul seed is useful for you." "Master, Du Xiaofu knew that his master's action had a lot to do with him. Although he really needed to fuse with the 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed, it was really unsettling for him to fuse with the 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed. "There is no need to be polite between us. I will make the new 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed take shape sooner or later. At that time, I will be able to help you more or less." The weapon Venerable interrupted Du Xiaofu and said calmly. He knew that every time Du Xiaofu fused with a spirit thunder soul seed, his strength would increase a lot. Although it was not long since he escaped from the devil religion, everything that happened outside had made him tremble, especially when he saw the heavenly wood divine tree, Du Xiaofu, the demon emperor, and even little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao had entered the saint realm. He knew very well that with his current strength, he would only be a burden to his disciple in the future. As a master, he could not help his disciple. As a human venerable and a weapon venerable, he also had his own pride. The saint realm was not a realm that only existed in legends. He, Xiahou Fenglei, would definitely be able to enter the saint realm. Du Xiaofu did not say anything more. If his master could really make the 3,000 quaking thunder soul seed take shape, it would indeed be the best. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu looked outside the hall, turned around and smiled at weapon Venerable Xiahou Fenglei, and said, "Master, this disciple has a surprise for you." As soon as Du Xiaofu's voice fell, two figures stepped into the hall. It was a man and a woman. Both of them looked hurried. The man looked like he was in his 40s. His facial features were like a sculpture. He must have been extremely handsome when he was young. His long purple hair fluttered slightly, and his purple patterned robe fluttered. His temperament was extraordinary, revealing a noble king's aura that was enough to make all beasts tremble. The woman was wearing a green palace dress. Although she was middle-aged, her temperament was refined, as if she was untainted by the mortal world. These two people were the Lord of Tianxian Palace, Yu Xianzi, and the Lord of Kaiyang Palace, Purple Tianzuan. After the 9 demon emperors retreated, Du Xiaofu asked Emo Tian Shao to personally invite Yu Xianzi and Purple Tianzuan. Emo Tian Shao did not tell Yu Xianzi and Purple Tianzuan anything. He only said that Du Xiaofu had an urgent matter to ask them. When Yu Xianzi and Purple Tianzuan saw Emo Tian Shao personally go in a hurry, they thought that something big had happened. They quickly tore through the void and followed Emo Tian Shao. When the two of them stepped into the side hall, they immediately saw familiar figures. The two of them suddenly froze in their footsteps. Their expressions changed from panic to shock, then to astonishment, and finally to surprise. Weapon Venerable Xiahou Fenglei's eyes rippled as he looked at the two figures who stepped into the hall. His weathered face was filled with nervousness and joy. Du Xiaofu smiled and quietly left the hall. At this time, his master, second martial uncle, and sixth martial uncle should have a lot to say. "Let's go. Outside the side hall, Du Xiaofu put his hand on Imo Tianzhao's shoulder and said, "Where are we going?" Imo Tianzhao glanced sideways at Du Xiaofu. "We're going to take a look at the grass of immortality and dark insight grass. We're going into seclusion while we're at it," Du Xiaofu said. Chapter 22:43. The stone city of the desolate country had long been the focus of attention. The news of the 9 demon emperors' appearance in the stone city spread like a storm. The demon king Du Xiaofu and the others actually broke into the devil religion's demon emperor palace and rescued the weapon sovereign Xiahou Fenglei and the others. How bold of him! It is said that the devil religion's demon emperors are extremely powerful and terrifying. I heard that the demon king Du Xiaofu also killed the 5 demon envoys of the devil religion and fought the 9 demon emperor above the stone city. Heavens! The demon king Du Xiaofu is actually so powerful. Back when the devil religion and the divine light court destroyed the 7-star hall, they took away the weapon sovereign Xiahou Fenglei and the others for some reason. The demon king Du Xiaofu is taking revenge. The demon king Du Xiaofu is the disciple of the weapon sovereign Xiahou Fenglei. With the demon king's personality, he naturally won't let this matter rest. It is said that the devil religion is extremely powerful and will turn this world into a demon realm. It seems that the rumors are a little exaggerated. The demon king Du Xiaofu broke into the demon emperor palace. Everyone was discussing animatedly, causing an uproar. In the dusky space, demon qi fluctuated. Faint roars of beasts and cries of ghosts could be heard in the distance, making one's heart palpitate for no reason. The Black Palace was magnificent and ancient, lofty and majestic. It was strange and intimidating. At the head of the palace, the great demon emperor's dwarf-like body was wrapped in strange black scales and filled with demon qi. His black hair reached his shoulders and his arms hung down to his knees. His withered hands emitted a dark color and strangely had 12 sharp fingers like ghost claws. At this moment, the great demon emperor's face was very gloomy. He looked at the 9 demon emperor and said in a hoarse voice, "You underestimated that kid too much. I was careless, and that old tree also interfered. Next time, I will personally deal with that brat." The 9th demon emperor was extremely ruthless. This time around, he had suffered quite a huge blow. Initially, he thought that after his primordial spirit was freed, he would be able to move unhindered in this world. However, he did not expect to suffer such a huge setback this time around. There are still a few troublesome fellows in this world. They aren't easy to deal with. The great devil emperor's eyes were filled with coldness. Hualazi also swaggered away in front of him. There was nothing he could do. East Immortal, Nanru, West Demon, and the others were still alive. The demon god is about to recover. When the time comes, we'll deal with him together. We don't need this little bit of time. When the time comes, it will be the time of their deaths, the great demon emperor said in a deep voice. His voice reverberated in the empty hall. Stone City, deep within the imperial palace. The grave where Du Xiaofu had been buried was now glowing with dazzling multicolored light and fluctuating energy. The immortal grass and dark seeker grass were growing luxuriantly, covering the high walls and nourishing the entire stone city. Inside the nether seeker grass, Kuang Zun, 9 lives venerable, and venerable Qian Xing sat cross-legged. Their bodies were wrapped in the nether seeker grass, and waves of invisible energy rippled around them. Walala! Strands of black demonic qi flowed out from their bodies and gradually dissipated around the netherseeker grass. The netherseeker grass could cleanse the spirit altar and suppress all evil. It was a treasure among treasures. Its value to cultivators was immeasurable. Du Xiaofu had placed Kuang Zun and 9 lives venerable here so that the netherseeker grass could suppress and cleanse the demonic qi in their bodies. The demonic qi had affected their primordial spirits. Back in the Demon King's palace, Du Xiaofu had only suppressed it, but not eradicated it. Once the demonic qi affected the primordial spirits, it was too difficult to eradicate it. Even with Du Xiaofu's current strength, he didn't dare to say that he had 100% confidence in eradicating it, let alone others. BZZT, BZZT. Du Xiaofu formed a hand seal. and a silver-gold arc of lightning shot out from his forehead and entered Kuang Zun's forehead. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was being very careful, not daring to be careless. The Nether Seeker grass alone wasn't enough to cleanse the three uncle masters. Spirit lightning was the bane of demonic qi, and the Nether Seeker grass might not be enough to completely eradicate the demonic qi in his three uncle masters' primordial spirits. It would take a long time, but with the various types of spirit lightning in his body, he should be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. However, this concerned the primordial spirits, and any mistake could lead to serious consequences. Thus, Du Xiaofu carefully controlled the spirit lightning in his primordial spirit to enter Kuang Zun's primordial spirit. Inside Kuang Zun's Naiwen palace, his primordial spirit was like a shrunken figure, covered in demonic qi. Although some of the demonic qi was being cleansed by the Nether Seeker grass, the speed was too slow. It was still unknown if it could be eradicated completely. As Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit entered, Kuang Zun's eyes turned red, and he became even more ferocious as he pounced on Du Xiaofu. Boom! Du Xiaofu was already prepared, and the spirit lightning in his primordial spirit turned into a cage, trapping Kuang Zun's primordial spirit in all directions. It seemed simple, but it was actually very difficult. If the force was too strong, it could easily injure Kuang Zun's primordial spirit. If it was light, it could affect Kuang Zun's future cultivation. Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit was strong enough, and he carefully suppressed Kuang Zun's primordial spirit. The silver-gold arc of lightning flickered, and a strand of spirit lightning wrapped around Kuang Zun's primordial spirit. Bzzz. In an instant, the demonic qi turned into a mist, and a strange sound could be heard. The black talisman was destroyed, and the demonic qi was destroyed. Seeing this, Du Xiaofu relaxed a little, but he didn't dare to be careless and continued. After 2 hours, Kuang Zun's primordial spirit returned to normal, and there was no more demonic qi. His primordial spirit was crystal clear, and his primordial spirit's eyes were clear again. Phew! About 4 hours later, Du Xiaofu withdrew his hand seals and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. His face was slightly pale, but there was a smile on his face. Finally, the demonic aura in the soul of 7th martial uncle, Venerable Qian Xing, was also cleared. Bzzz. Kuang Zun, who was sitting cross-legged, opened his eyes, and his eyes were like stars. Old 7. Kuang Zun, who had cleared the demonic qi, and Kuang Zun, who was waiting by the side, were overjoyed. Child, it's been hard on you. Kuang Zun stood up and said. He knew what had happened in the Demon King Palace. Its disciple who has made the 3 martial uncles suffer. Du Xiaofu was slightly gratified that the devil qi in his 3 martial uncles' primordial spirits had been completely removed by the effects of the dark, penetrating grass and the spirit thunder. What was even more unexpected to Du Xiaofu was that his 3 martial uncles' primordial spirits had strangely improved a lot over the years in the hands of the devil cult. They had all reached the domain realm. Du Xiaofu guessed that all of this was related to the demonic qi. When they were in the Demon King Palace, they were affected by the demonic qi, and their combined strength was even stronger. A moment later, Kuang Zun, Kuang Zun, Kuang Zun, and Kuang Zun met in the main hall. They couldn't help but be surprised and excited. After so many years, they never thought that they would meet again. 4th brother, you've taken in a good disciple. The 7-star hall will prosper as long as the fire is not extinguished. Kuang Zun was happy. Everyone was finally reunited. Over the years, the 7-star hall had risen again. Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, and the others of the younger generation had also made amazing progress. All of this was inseparable from the support of the desolate country. If 3rd brother was still here, he would be very happy to see this, Kuang Zun said. Hearing this, everyone fell into sadness. How tragic was it when Kuang Zun self-detonated? Master, martial uncles, the divine light court no longer exists. The devil religion will pay the price for 3rd martial uncle's revenge one day, Du Xiaofu said. When 3rd martial uncle self-detonated, 5th martial uncle desperately used his spatial martial vein to send him and little Xingxing away. Countless disciples of the 7-star hall died. The tragic scene was still vivid in their minds. Child, it's been hard on you all these years. Xiahou Fenglei patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder, a gratified smile on his face. Chapter 22:44. Supporting the seven-star hall, the desolate country, Tianwu Academy, and so on was all done by Du Xiaofu alone. How could Xiahou Fenglei not know how tiring it was to place so many burdens on the shoulders of someone who was still young? Xiahou Fenglei was gratified. His disciple had done it, shouldering all the burdens by himself. The desolate country, seven-star hall, Tianwu Academy, and so on had become more and more prosperous over the years. If it had been him, it would have been difficult for him to do so. We are old and behind the times. It is the world of the young now. Kuang Zun spoke with a smile and gratification in his eyes. It won't be long. Martial Uncle and Martial Uncle will definitely be able to step into a higher realm. The seven-star hall still needs Martial Uncle and Martial Uncle to oversee it. Du Xiaofu smiled. Although it was impossible for third Martial Uncle, Alchemy Venerable, to be revived, seeing that his Martial Uncles and Martial Uncle had been reunited made him very happy. The second worry in his heart had been resolved. After chatting with his Martial Uncles and Martial Uncle for a while, Du Xiaofu left first. He returned to the backyard and chatted with his mother for a while longer. Mother wants to go into seclusion for a while, Han Aodong said. Although the desolate country seemed to be at the peak of its power and had countless experts, Han Aodong knew very well that the desolate country was actually surrounded by danger and powerful enemies. If she did not step into the Saint Realm, she would not be able to help at all. For example, when the 9 demon emperors of the devil religion attacked, she went to the demon emperor's palace to rescue Venerable Weapon. She really wanted to be able to advance and retreat together. Okay, Du Xiaofu nodded. The great calamity was coming and his mother wanted to go into seclusion. Du Xiaofu naturally had no objections. Before the great calamity, the stronger one was, the more likely one would be able to protect oneself. Then, Du Xiaofu thought of something and said to his mother, "Mother, I have a cultivation method here that can increase the power of the soul. It might be helpful to your cultivation." Du Xiaofu knew that his mother was a spiritual talisman master, and the spiritual root of legalism was also extremely mysterious and powerful. The mysterious, incomplete cultivation method that he cultivated was extremely beneficial to the power of the primordial spirit. His elder brother, Jin Qingchun, had also cultivated it, and the results were astonishing. It was only after all these years that he was able to make successive breakthroughs. Therefore, Du Xiaofu wanted his mother to cultivate it as well. When Han Aodong heard this, she nodded slightly and did not refuse. There was no need to be polite with her son. However, when Du Xiaofu handed the mysterious technique to Han Aodong on the spot, Han Aodong's face was full of shock. Too extraordinary, too extraordinary. I'm going to go into seclusion right now. Han Aodong was shocked. With her knowledge and experience, how could she not know the benefits of this technique? She was overjoyed and immediately wanted to go into seclusion. Du Xiaofu smiled helplessly. He could only arrange for his mother to go into seclusion immediately. At night, the sky was dark blue. It was as if it had been washed by clear water, clean, gentle, and solemn. There were no clouds tonight. The moon was dark and the stars were bright. In the clear blue sky, the twinkling stars were like endless blue satin that was sprinkled with countless small jade flowers. The night was cold. In the courtyard of the Du family, the stars were gently floating. Du Tingshuan's figure was tall and straight. He looked into the depths of the night sky, and his eyes narrowed slightly. He sighed softly and said, "What a peaceful night. However, I'm afraid the world's peace will not last for long. At least, the desolate nation will persevere until the end." Du Xiaofu's figure stepped forward and stood beside Du Tingxian. The father and son were already at the same height. "What do you plan to do next? I'm afraid there's not much time left." The ancestors of the Du family had a lot to do with that catastrophe. When the time comes, the devil religion's first target will be the Du family. Du Tingxian looked back and turned around. "There's not much time left." Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed. Indeed, there was not much time left. Although he had stepped into the Saint Realm, compared to the devil religion, he was still too far away. The 9 great families, dragons, and phoenixes all have their own separate realms. It is said that the 9 great families, dragons, and phoenixes may be able to survive alone. Du Tingxian was worried. If the catastrophe came, the Du family would be the first to bear the brunt. There would be no way out. After being delayed for so long, there are some things that must be done. Du Xiaofu smiled and said to Du Tingxian, the Du family is not without a way out. Compared to the realms of the 9 great families, the Du family is not inferior. Swoosh swoosh. A moment later, several figures took advantage of the moonlight and flew towards the Qianhuang mainland. The next day at dusk, the Qianhuang mainland. Rumble. Under the setting sun, the sky was covered with rays of light. Suddenly, the Qianhuang mainland trembled in shock. It was as if the heavens and earth were crying. Rumble. Suddenly, in the depths of the Qianhuang mainland, there was a dazzling light. There was a vast aura like wind and thunder, a surging aura that seemed to cross the ancient time and space spread out. At this moment, all the living beings in the Qianhuang mainland were alarmed. They looked towards the sky. There was a burst of light, like a blooming lotus. From high up in the sky, there were rays of light pouring down from the 9 heavens. The sound of wind and thunder was unceasing. Walala! Dazzling runes covered the sky. It was so dazzling that it was like a dream. It fell down on the earth and filled the air with an ancient aura. It was like the beginning of the chaos. It was misty. In the sky where the rays of light were the most dazzling, Du Xiaofu stood in the air. He formed a seal with his hands and closed his eyes. At this moment, a vast space appeared in Du Xiaofu's mind. It was as if their minds were connected. With a thought, he could see every corner of this vast space. The vast land, various dangerous places, and numerous demonic beasts. This was the space of the divine dominion. Du Xiaofu came to the Qianhuang mainland to completely control the space of the divine dominion. Back when the space of the divine dominion underwent endless nirvana, Du Xiaofu saw an afterimage of the master of the 3,000 worlds and obtained 3 treasures. The third was the space of the divine dominion. However, one needed to step into the saint plane to be able to control it. Now, Du Xiaofu had stepped into the saint plane. He was here for the space of the divine dominion. The 9 great families all had their own space and had a strong foundation. Du Xiaofu had always been thinking about the space of the divine dominion. With the space of the divine dominion, when the calamity came, the desolate country would have a way out. Especially everything in the space of the divine dominion. It was the best place for all the young people to train. When the calamity came, the stronger they were, the more chances they would have to protect themselves. Du Xiaofu wanted to send the elites of the Du family and the desolate country into the space of the divine dominion to train. Du Xiaofu had already obtained the space of the divine dominion. It was not difficult for him to open it now. Du Xiaofu's mind was connected. He could peek into the entire space of the divine dominion. At this moment, it was as if the space was injected into his mind. He could peek into the surroundings with his mind and control it at the same time. The space of the divine dominion. This is the space of the divine dominion. At this moment, the old monster of the green fox tribe, who had come with Du Xiaofu, was shocked. He had seen Du Xiaofu open the space of the divine dominion with his own eyes. How could he not be shocked? He had also secretly entered the space of the divine dominion. Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaojing, and Du Tingxian were all stunned at this moment. At this moment, Du Tingxian understood what Du Xiaofu meant. It turned out that he was referring to the space of the divine dominion. If the space of the divine dominion was the escape route of the Du family, it was indeed no less powerful than the space of the 9 great families. Qi. After a while, Du Xiaofu opened his eyes. There was joy in the depths of his eyes, but he was also frowning slightly. At this moment, after gaining control of the space of the divine dominion, Du Xiaofu found that although the space of the divine dominion was under his control, some things were gone. For example, the life-saving talisman and the suppression of the cultivation level that was supposed to automatically enter the domain realm had disappeared. However, there was a good side. Originally, only the most talented creatures could enter the space of the divine dominion. Now, there were no restrictions. As long as Du Xiaofu agreed, all creatures could enter the space of the divine dominion. Father, how can you open the space of the divine dominion? Little Xingxing stepped forward. Her black eyes were full of shock at this moment. The space of the divine dominion was jointly set up by her father, the dragon god, and the lords of the 3,000 sectors. I can already control the space of the divine dominion, Du Xiaofu smiled. Then, he explained the general situation to Du Tingxian, little Xingxing, and the others. The lords of the 3,000 sectors had already given the space of the divine dominion to him. Back then, the lords of the 3,000 sectors and the dragon god set up the space of the divine dominion to train the descendants of this world, hoping to find an outstanding supreme being. Coo! The old monster of the green fox swallowed his saliva. He really could not think of any other amazing thing that the Demon King could take out. The space of the divine dominion was actually under his control. If this news spread, the eyes of the 9 great families, the dragons, and the phoenixes would be filled with blood. The space of the divine dominion is a little different from before. I need to think about how to set it up. I'm afraid it will take some time. I'm afraid that everyone will have to go back to guard the barren country first, Du Xiaofu said to Du Tingxian and the others. Originally, he brought everyone here because he was afraid that if he could not control the space of the divine dominion, they could think of a way. However, some things in the space of the divine dominion were now gone. After thinking about it secretly, Du Xiaofu wanted to make some arrangements. Now that the barren country really needed experts to guard it, Du Xiaofu did not dare to be careless. Then be careful. Du Tingxian reminded Du Xiaofu. Don't worry. I can protect myself in the space of the divine dominion. Du Xiaofu smiled. He knew that his drunkard father was worried about the experts of legalism and the devil religion. However, this was the space of the divine dominion. He was in control of everything. Du Xiaofu did not believe in legalism. The experts of the devil religion could casually enter the space of the divine dominion created by the overlords of the 3,000 boundless worlds and the dragon god unless the devil god himself came. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Du Tingxian was relieved. Soon after, everyone left. The barren country needed experts to guard it. Du Xiaofu entered the space of the divine dominion. The dazzling light in the void also disappeared, as if nothing had happened. This was the entrance to the space of the divine dominion. The space of the divine dominion was located in the Qianhuang mainland. Du Xiaofu could control the space of the divine dominion, but he could not move it to the barren country. After the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, caused a ruckus in legalism and forced his way into the Demon King's palace and shook the 3 continents of Kyushu, the world calmed down again. There were no big waves, and the 9 great families did not make any moves. However, everyone knew in their hearts that this was only the beginning of a storm. Chapter 22:45. Time passed by slowly, like quicksand at one's fingertips. The desolate country had also regained its peace. The Snow Spirit Battle Emperor, Qiu Qingrong, had returned to the Great Snow Mountain. All the other experts had also entered seclusion, striving to advance further as soon as possible. With the desolate nation's rich resources and the recovery of the world's energy, the disciples of the desolate nation were able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Their progress was astonishing. Some experts broke through one after another, advancing further. Yi Piaoling, Mo Tianxiao, Stone, Mu Ruobai, Gue Che, Silverwing Demon Condor, Phantom, Bloodvine Evil Spirit, and the other top experts of the Barren Nation were improving rapidly with the best resources of the Barren Nation. Half a month later, in the Stone City of the Barren Country, boom! A thunderous rumble came from the void as lightning shot into the sky from the Stone City. Large amounts of dazzling lightning arcs appeared in the sky, shaking all directions. The entire central state was trembling. Whoosh whoosh! The citizens of the Stone City rushed to the streets, trembling under the vast aura. Countless eyes looked towards the depths of the palace, where the vast aura was coming from. Among the various forces of the central state, there were old figures floating in the air. They looked in the direction of the desolate country, and their eyes were filled with emotions. I wonder who in the desolate nation has stepped into the Saint Realm. On top of the ancient heaven sect, the Golden Rock Domain Lord, Sima Taxing, and the others looked in the direction of the Barren Nation. Their eyes were filled with shock. Such vast fluctuations and aura swept through the central state. It was a sign that a mighty one had stepped into the Saint Plane. Saint Realm. Our desolate country has another Saint Realm expert. Everyone in the Stone City's royal palace was pleasantly surprised, as the barren nation had gained yet another Saint Plane expert. In the depths of the imperial palace, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The lightning runes were dazzling. As the dazzling lightning receded, Elder Lay's figure appeared. His eyes were bright as if they contained a sea of lightning, and his vast aura was endless. 10 days later, the energy of heaven and earth engulfed the heavens above the Great Wheel sect, shaking the entire central state. She should have taken that step as well. Stone City Palace, Old Lei, Du Tingxian, Little Xingxing and the others were looking in the direction of the Great Luan sect. The one who had the highest chance of entering the Saint Realm was the old lady. In the following days, auras surged into the heavens above Kyushu from time to time, shaking the entire continent. Some of the old men at the peak of the Domain Realm, who were at the peak of the Domain Realm and had almost reached the end of their lifespan, were able to make breakthroughs and step into the Saint Realm with the help of the recovery of the energy of heaven and earth. Awoo! At night, the roars of beasts could be heard from the savage Beast Mountain Range. The current barbaric Beast Mountain Range was no longer the same as before. There were many powerful demonic beasts there. The moon was dim and the stars were bright. The distant mountains and nearby trees were all hazy, as if they were covered with a veil. An ethereal mist rose from the palace, and there were fluctuations of talismans and mysterious patterns. This was a treasure trove. Rumble. Suddenly, the heavens and earth rumbled and trembled. It was like endless thunder. Such a commotion was much greater than when he broke through to the Saint Realm. It shook the entire Kyushu region. In an instant, old figures from the various major forces appeared in the void. They moved their fingers and deduced the phenomenon. Could it be that place is about to reappear? Above the void, an old man's eyes were filled with shock. The barren nation, Stone City, Imperial Palace. Many figures stepped into the void. Their auras were vast for no reason, distorting the void. That ominous place is about to reappear in the world. High up in the sky, there were red and blue flames and electric arcs fluctuating. Hua Lei looked into the depths of the void, and there were ripples in his eyes. At night, the dim moonlight shrouded the steep mountain walls. Among the lush trees, a few buildings were simple and deep, revealing the vicissitudes of life. In a secret chamber, Ouyang Shuang sat cross-legged. Her body was enveloped in a light screen, and a vast aura slowly fluctuated from her body. Suddenly, following the huge commotion, the large eyes on Ouyang Shuang's peerless face suddenly opened. A soft cry came from her mouth, and her brows were tightly furrowed. She seemed to be in extreme pain and discomfort. Goo-goo. Ouyang Shuang's lower abdomen glowed as if something was wriggling. At this moment, somewhere in the divine dominion, the void was hazy. Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. Around his body, there was a bright lightning flame that wrapped around him like a barrier. From between his eyebrows, pure energy of the origin spirit and spiritual lightning slowly drifted out. This lasted for an unknown amount of time. Finally, a silver-gold electric arc fluctuated between Du Xiaofu's brows, who was like an old monk in meditation. The resplendent lightning flames in the surroundings seemed to transform into a tiny stream of light that drilled into the space between his brows. Boom! Du Xiaofu's body immediately trembled after the last wisp of lightning flame entered between his eyebrows. A glaring lightning glow surged out from within his body. An invisible ripple that shook the empty space swept out from his body in all directions like a hurricane. Rumble. Suddenly, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the void. Lightning runes shone brightly, and wild lightning covered the entire space. Electric arcs wreaked havoc like various spiritual snakes, and the mighty thunder rumbled incessantly. Walala. At the same time, a vast and shocking origin spirit energy swept out like a storm with Du Xiaofu as the center. At this moment, if there were any experts present, they would be dumbfounded. How could the origin spirit energy of an initial stage Saint Realm cultivator be so powerful? Just this origin spirit energy alone was enough to contend with an intermediate stage Saint Realm cultivator. After a while, the shocking commotion slowly subsided, and everything returned to normal. Chi. Du Xiaofu opened his eyes, and there was a flash of lightning in his eyes. The light shot out like lightning, and it took a while for it to recede. Huff! Du Xiaofu exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. The air shook the surroundings, and his robes fluttered. During this period of time in the Divine Dominion, Du Xiaofu had not stopped at all. He had rearranged many secret places in the Divine Dominion. After all, these places would be the training grounds for the Barren State's disciples in the future. In particular, Du Xiaofu placed even more emphasis on the original location of the Supreme Tomb, restoring it to its original appearance when he entered the Divine Domain. The resources were limited, and only the most talented disciples could enter. They couldn't afford to waste too much resources. There were also some places with great opportunities. Du Xiaofu had set up life-saving talismans and cultivation restrictions. The disciples who entered could have a domain realm cultivation and could have life-saving talismans to protect themselves. However, the experts who entered would also be suppressed to the domain realm. As for the boundless nirvana ground that he had comprehended, Du Xiaofu could not restore it, and it no longer existed. He could not help but feel a little regretful. It took Du Xiaofu a lot of effort to set up the Divine Dominion. He had also invested a lot of resources and foundation. The good things on him were almost used up, and he was exhausted several times. Then, Du Xiaofu refined the 3,000 Thunder Soul Seed in his mind. The 3,000 Thunder Soul Seed originally belonged to his master, the weapon master Xiahou Fenglei. Now that his master had no use for it, Du Xiaofu did not refuse anymore. The spiritual Thunder Soul Seed was indeed what Du Xiaofu needed the most. The 3,000 Thunder Soul Seed had been in Du Xiaofu's mind, and it had long been familiar with Du Xiaofu's aura. Moreover, the soul seed of the 3,000 repelling thunders was not too powerful for Du Xiaofu at the moment. Hence, it was easy for him to fuse them together without any obstacles. However, because the 3,000 Thunder Soul Seed was not too powerful, the integration with Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit brought great benefits to Du Xiaofu. However, the linear improvement of his cultivation and the immediate enhancement of his primordial spirit was not great at the moment. However, Du Xiaofu knew very well that the benefits of integrating the 3,000 Thunder Soul Seed were not comparable to the linear improvement of his cultivation. Du Xiaofu had just broken through to the Sage Realm. During this period of time, he felt that his cultivation had not improved much after stepping into the initial stage of the Sage Realm. The gap between each level of the Sage Realm was greater than the gap between the beginning of cultivation and the Sage Realm. It would be more difficult to go further. It's time to look for other spiritual thunders, Du Xiaofu muttered to himself. He had done everything he could. The most important thing now was to enhance his own strength. For Du Xiaofu, the fastest way to enhance his strength and the most urgent thing was to integrate other spiritual thunders. It seemed that he would need the help of Huolei Laozu. After a while, Du Xiaofu's figure disappeared and left the Divine Dominion. He wanted to return to the Stone City to arrange everything and then look for Huolei Laozu to look for other spiritual thunders. When Du Xiaofu returned to the Stone City, he received two shocking news. Old Lei had stepped into the Sage Realm, which made Du Xiaofu very happy. The ancient wilderness fearsome ground is about to open again. In the main hall, Huolei Zi looked at Du Xiaofu and said with an extremely serious expression, "Ancient wilderness fearsome ground? What kind of place is that?" Looking at Huolei Laozu's expression in the ancient wilderness fearsome ground, Du Xiaofu's heart tightened. This place was probably not an ordinary place. Let's put it this way. The ancient wilderness fearsome ground is extremely ancient. It is the place where the dragons, phoenixes, and Kirins fought their final battle during the Dragon Phoenix Tribulation, Huolei Laozu said. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's heart trembled. At this moment, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, Little Xingxing, Old Monster Green Fox, and the others who were present also changed their expressions. Du Xiaofu knew about the Dragon Phoenix Tribulation, and he had known about it since he was young. When he was young, Du Xiaofu thought that the Dragon Phoenix tribulation was just a legend. Later, he found out that it was something that happened before ancient times. Legend had it that there were 3 races at the beginning of the world. They were the dragons, the phoenixes, and the legendary Kirans. These 3 races were blessed by nature and were born with great power. Later on, for some unknown reason, the war between the 3 races was earth-shattering. The impact was too great, so it was called the Dragon Phoenix Tribulation. At that time, humans were still struggling to survive in the cracks of all kinds of powerful creatures. They were extremely weak. Is there really a Dragon Phoenix Tribulation? Du Xiaofu took a deep breath. Indeed, Old Lazy said. Although he had not cultivated as long as Hua Lazy, he knew many secrets. He said to Du Xiaofu, "It is said that the Dragon Phoenix Tribulation ended with the extinction of the Kirans. The dragons and phoenixes also suffered heavy losses and retreated to the 4 seas and Wudong Mountain to recuperate." Chapter 22:46. Dragons are revered by the scaled beasts, Cheelants are revered by the beasts on the ground, and phoenixes are revered by the birds. However, after the dragons and phoenixes joined forces to destroy the Cheelants during the great calamity of the Dragon and Phoenix Calamity, they also suffered great losses. From then on, the strength of the dragons and phoenixes greatly decreased, and the other races took advantage of the situation to flourish. Among them, the human race completely rose to prominence. Elder Lei spoke, revealing everything he knew. As for the location of the final battle of the great calamity of the Dragon and Phoenix Calamity, no one knows how it became the ancient wilderness ominous ground. That ancient wilderness ominous ground has only appeared twice since ancient times, and both times were before the great calamity of the primordial era. My old master had once entered it. It was said that he was searching for an extremely important item, but in the end, he returned without success. Later on, he said that the ominous ground was extremely dangerous and had great killing intent. It was extremely dangerous, Elder Lei continued. His old master, Jinlei Tensei, had also entered it. However, his cultivation was still shallow at that time, so he didn't have the opportunity to enter. Hearing Elder Lei's words, Du Xiaofu's heart couldn't help but tighten. Even an expert like Jinlei Tensei had said that the ancient wilderness ominous ground was extremely dangerous. It was enough to show just how dangerous that place was. Strictly speaking, those 2 ancient wilderness ominous grounds didn't truly appear at all. It was only because cracks appeared for some reason that people could enter. Moreover, those who could enter were all cultivators of the Saint Realm and above. Those below the Saint Realm didn't have the right to enter at all. Hua Lei corrected Elder Lei and said, although only cracks appeared in those 2 ancient wilderness ominous grounds, many powerful experts had entered and died inside. There were also people who had obtained great opportunities, such as the blood essence of dragons and phoenixes, as well as the supreme beast energy of dragons and phoenixes. There were also some treasures left behind by the ancestors of heaven-defying races from ancient times. Those races weren't much weaker than the dragons and phoenixes back then. With that, Hua Lei glanced at Du Xiaofu, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, and the others. There was some pride and complacency on his face. He had entered the danger zone before, so he knew much more than Old Man Lei. Hua Lazy, have you entered the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground before? Little Xingxing looked at Hua Lazy and asked curiously. Impudent. Master Fire Lightning stared at Little Star and rolled his eyes. However, he didn't look angry as he replied, of course, I've been there. I'm afraid there aren't many people who are still alive after going to the ominous grounds. Then if you bring us in, there won't be any danger soon, right? Little Xingxing blinked her bright eyes. The mark between her eyebrows was noble and charming. She wasn't polite to Hua Lazy. Hua Lazy's status was very high, but Little Xingxing knew that she was the daughter of the dragon god. In terms of status, she was much higher than Hua Lazy. Little guy, you're thinking too much. If we look at the situation of the first crack and the second crack, those who have entered the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground can't enter a second time. No matter if it's a human, a beast, or a demon spirit, no matter how high their cultivation is, they can only enter once. Hua Lazy looked at Little Xingxing, Du Xiaofu, and the others and shook his head. he probably wouldn't have the chance to enter the danger zone a second time. Is that so? Hearing this, the old monster of the Green Fox tribe looked a little disappointed. He didn't have the chance to enter the ancient, desolate, ominous place. Just now, when he heard little Xingxing's words, he thought that it would be much safer if the Fire Thunder ancestor could take them into that ominous place. Did those old guys from the Eternal Tomb enter the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground before? Little Xingxing's eyes rolled as she looked at Hualezi and asked. Of course they did, Hualezi said. He looked at little Xingxing in confusion. He didn't know why little Xingxing asked this question. Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, and Du Xiaofu looked at each other tacitly after hearing Hualezi's words. Then, they looked at each other and laughed. That's good. At least we can take care of those bastards. Little Xingxing smiled maliciously. If those old guys from the Eternal Tomb couldn't enter the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground, they wouldn't have to worry about the dragons, legalism, school of vertical and horizontal and famous scholars. They would have a chance to take care of the dragons, legalism, and others. Du Xiaofu also smiled maliciously. If those people from the Eternal Tomb couldn't enter the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground, at least they wouldn't have to worry about the dragons, famous scholars, and school of vertical and horizontal behind their backs. With little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, and the others' cultivation and strength, they might be able to take advantage of the situation. Hearing little Xingxing's words and looking at Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and little Xingxing's treacherous smiles, the old monster Green Fox, Senior Lei, and the others finally understood. They were secretly stunned. Sure enough, people of different families would not enter the same house. Hualezi rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu, little Xingxing, and Du Xiaoyao helplessly and continued, judging from the commotion this time. I'm afraid that the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground won't have a crack this time. It will truly reappear in the world. At that time, there will be more opportunities. Any one of them will be extraordinary. Ancestor, where is the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground? Du Xiaofu asked. It's on the ancient, desolate continent, Hualezi said. Du Xiaofu was no stranger to the ancient, desolate continent. The three continents were Kyushu, the Demon Realm, and the Beast Region. The three continents were the Tianhuang continent, the Chanhuang continent, and the ancient, desolate continent. Among them, the Divine Region was in the Chanhuang continent. Du Xiaofu had been to the Tianhuang continent before. Jinlei Tensei's mansion had appeared on the Tianhuang continent. The ancient, desolate continent. Du Xiaofu remembered something. Du Xiaoqing had said that the mark in her beast soul had been activated. She wanted to search for everything related to her origin. That place was on the ancient, desolate continent. Du Xiaofu was clear about Du Xiaoqing's origin. She came out of the huge, headless demonic beast skeleton and came out of the oval egg. However, Du Xiaofu had never asked whether Du Xiaoqing had found out about her origin. Now that the ancient, desolate continent was mentioned, Du Xiaofu remembered. Later, Du Xiaofu learned from Hualezi that the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground hadn't completely reappeared yet, but it would definitely open soon. However, only a crack had appeared on the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground, so only experts of the Saint Realm could enter. This time, the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground should completely reappear in the world. He didn't know if cultivators below the Saint Realm could enter. Chapter 22:47. If anyone below the Saint Realm goes in, they'll just be courting death. It's too dangerous. Hualezi said. The opportunities inside were huge, but the danger was too great. I have to go in. Du Xiaofu had already decided that there were great dangers in there, but there were also great opportunities. The blood essence of the true dragon and true phoenix, the supreme beast energy of the true dragon and true phoenix, were all heaven-defying treasures. There were also some treasures left behind by the ancestors of some extremely heaven-defying races from ancient times. Those races were not much inferior to the dragon and phoenix races back then. Du Xiaofu couldn't refuse. It was time for him to increase his strength. He had to go to the ancient, desolate, ominous ground. He might have to postpone his search for Spirit Thunder. You have to be careful. Although those old guys can't enter the ancient, desolate continent, it doesn't mean that no experts can. Maybe there are some hidden experts in this world. They didn't enter the ancient, desolate, ominous ground last time. This time, the ancient, desolate, ominous ground has completely reappeared. They won't miss this opportunity. Hualezi reminded Du Xiaofu, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, and the others. Ancestor, did those demon emperors of the devil religion enter the ancient, desolate, ominous ground? Du Xiaojing rarely spoke, but he couldn't help but worry. If those demon emperors of the devil religion could enter the ancient, desolate, ominous ground, the threat would be huge. I really don't know about this. You're the only one who's curious. I remember that when the ancient, desolate, ominous ground was torn open the second time, those demons of the devil religion had already appeared. However, I've never heard of any demons entering the ancient, desolate, ominous ground. Hualezi frowned. He was also curious about this, so he didn't know if those demon emperors could enter the ancient, desolate, ominous ground. Let's get ready to go. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath. His eyes were firm. Whether those demon emperors could enter the ancient, desolate, ominous ground or not, he had to go there. Maybe he could get some great opportunities. Not long after, Du Xiaofu found Du Xiaoqing. He wanted to know if Du Xiaoqing had found her family in the ancient, desolate continent. No, we didn't gain anything. Our clan doesn't exist in the entire ancient, desolate continent. Du Xiaoqing was a little sad. She did not gain anything from her previous trip to the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds. However, the imprint in her beast spirit allowed her to feel that there were still people from her tribe living in the ancient, desolate continent. Du Xiaofu stroked Du Xiaoqing's hair and patted her shoulder. Come with me to the ancient, desolate continent. Maybe you will find something. Okay. Du Xiaoqing nodded happily. At night, Du Xiaofu found Mo Tianxiao, Dongfang Qingmu, Du Yunlong, Old Yi, Qiuli, Gui Che, Silver-winged demonic condor, Thunder Eagle King, Ming King, and other core members of the desolate country. He told them about his control over the divine realm. What? When they heard this news, everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. They couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Their eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets as they looked at Du Xiaofu like he was a monster. Saints will follow me to the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds. The others will take the elites of the desolate country to train in the divine realm. Although there are great opportunities in the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds, it is not easy for saints to come out. Those who are not strong enough should not enter. Du Xiaofu told everyone about his idea and the heaven-defying opportunities that might exist in the ancient, desolate, ominous ground. However, the ancient, desolate, ominous ground was too dangerous. Even Saint Realm cultivators would be in danger if they entered. He didn't want them to be in danger, so he brought Du Xiaoqing along to see if he could take the opportunity to find her family. The great calamity is coming. There is not much time left. Since there is such an opportunity, we should seize it. The dangers are unknown. I want to enter, Dugu Finchen said. His eyes were firm and filled with flames. Entering the divine realm was not very meaningful to him. He had already entered before. The opportunities in the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds were the greatest temptation for him. As for the dangers, he had never backed down. Count me in. Yi Piaoling only said 4 simple words, but her eyes were shining. Count me in as well, Jin Qingchun said. Then, almost everyone wanted to enter the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds. Many people had already entered the divine realm. Du Xiaofu frowned. The others were fine, but Dugu Finchen, Nether Demon, Mo Tianxiao, Yi Piaoling, Dongfang Qingmu, Jin Qingchun, and the others' personalities made it impossible for them to refuse. In the end, Du Xiaofu could only nod. Not long after, Du Xiaofu brought big sister Du Xiaoman, second brother Du Yunlong, Qiuli, Ming King, Thunderhawk King, Gui Che, Silver-winged demonic condor, and the others to the divine realm. Du Xiaofu had rearranged the divine realm. He had to personally instruct everyone. Ming King and Thunderhawk King were the kings of the divine realm. Naturally, they had to be there. Du Xiaofu also made some small arrangements for everyone to enter and exit the divine realm. As the news of the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds opening spread, the entire Kyushu continent was shaken. Discussions were everywhere. Many people expressed their desire to enter the ancient, desolate continent. They wanted to enter the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds to seek great opportunities. Such a great temptation was enough to make people put the danger to the back of their minds. 2 days later, in the morning, the darkness before dawn had just passed, and the first ray of sunlight rose from the east. Above the stone city's imperial palace, more than a dozen figures stepped into the void. It was none other than Du Xiaofu's group. Other than Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaojing, Du Tingxian, Elder Lei, and other true saint experts, there was also Mo Tianxiao, Dongfang Qingmu, Nether Demon, Yelu Han, Dugu Finchen, Jin Qingchun, Yi Piaoling, Changguyu, Du Xiaoqing, and Little Tiger. What made Du Xiaofu feel helpless was that little girl Du Xiaohuang, Du Ba, and the others had heard the news from somewhere. They said that they wanted to go to the ancient, desolate continent to seek opportunities. They also clamored about going. It wasn't easy to convince them to follow Thunderhawk King, Qiu Li, and the others into the divine realm to temper themselves. "Let's go," Du Xiaofu said. The group tore through the void and headed straight for the ancient, desolate continent. Around half an incense stick's time after Du Xiaofu's group had left, two small heads stealthily poked out from a certain corner of the palace. One of them was a young man who appeared to be in his early teens, while the other was an even younger girl. Two pairs of large eyes stealthily rotated in all directions. Finally, they looked at each other and smiled. The girl opened her mouth and said, "Brother Du Ba, my father, elder sister Xiao Qing, elder sister Xingxing, and Aunt Xiaojing should have gone far away. Sister Huang, do you think Uncle Xiaofu will be angry if we secretly follow?" The little boy was a little worried. "What are you afraid? There are great opportunities in the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds." Du Xiaohuang glanced at the little boy. She was obviously encouraging him. Chapter 22:48. Scared? When have I, Du Xiaoba, ever been scared? Although the young boy was young, his body was tall and muscular, giving off the feeling of a lion cub. He patted his chest as he spoke to the little girl. But then, his bright eyes turned, showing a hint of fear. He was not afraid of anyone, except for Uncle Xiaofu and his master from the Golden Rock clan. "If you're not scared, then come with me. We'll go secretly." "So what if it's the ancient wilderness ominous grounds?" the little girl said, and her figure rose into the air, tearing the space apart. Although the young boy was still a little hesitant at this time, he could only bite the bullet and follow. The two youthful figures then disappeared into the void. The news of the ancient wilderness ominous grounds opening spread throughout the 3 continents and Kyushu, and all the cultivators were moved. In a short time, many experts from the 3 continents and Kyushu headed towards the ancient wilderness continent. With the speed of Du Xiaofu and the others, it did not take them long to reach the ancient wilderness continent. They did not need to go through the wormhole at all. Tearing the space apart was much faster than going through the wormhole. When Du Xiaofu arrived at the ancient wilderness continent, he could not help but feel a little surprised. There were already many people on the ancient wilderness continent, and he could even feel many hidden auras. Of course, with Du Xiaofu's current cultivation and strength, and the cultivation of the group, they did not feel any threat. This is the ancient wilderness continent. Du Xiaoqing was a little sad. When the mark in her mind was activated, she could clearly feel that there might be relatives on the ancient wilderness continent. But the last time she came, she could not find them. "There seems to be a lot of people here, but I don't see the 9 great families, dragons, and phoenixes." Little Xingxing relaxed his mind, and was a little surprised that he did not see the 9 great families. "There are many powerful races on the ancient wilderness continent. You can't underestimate them," Du Xiaoqing said to little Xingxing. However, she knew little Xingxing's current strength. Although there were many powerful races in the ancient desolate continent, none of them could compare with little Xingxing. This is not the place where the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds will open. Naturally, there are no members of the 9 great families, dragons, or phoenixes here. However, I don't think they will show up too early. There is no need for them to leave early. They don't want to send their younger generation members to their deaths. Master Huolei glanced at everyone and said. Du Xiaofu smiled. He knew that Huolei Laozu had followed them here to protect them. Since the ancient desolate ominous grounds was such a big event, the legalism, and the school of vertical and horizontal would definitely appear. 2 hours later, a vast and boundless sea appeared before Du Xiaofu and the others. The sea was boundless, and the sky and water were the same color. Looking carefully, there were towering island peaks, cliffs, and verdant greenery. Stepping on the void and looking into the distance, one could see waves surging up and down. Each wave was higher than the previous one. It was extremely majestic. The vast sea seemed to be connected to the sky. In the distance, it was deep and misty. It was as if the sea and sky had merged into one. "It's in front," Master Huale said. He withdrew his aura and landed on top of a canyon. There were greenery on both sides of the canyon, and a meandering river flowed through it. Everyone also withdrew their aura as they landed. "Is that where the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds will open?" Du Xiaofu squinted his eyes. Above the vast sea, there was a spatial crack in the depths of the void. Those who were not strong enough would not be able to see through it. There was an ancient and boundless qi coming out from it. Emotian Xiao, Du Xiaojing, Du Tingxian, and the green fox old monster all looked up. That crack shows signs of completely shattering. The ancient, desolate, ominous grounds should be opening soon, Master Huale said. A faint scarlet-blue flame arc flickered in his eyes. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Not long ago, he had broken into the Demon King Palace. It made him understand that even if he had stepped into the Saint Realm, he was still far from those demon emperors, let alone the demon god. Therefore, no matter what, if there were great opportunities in the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds, he must get them. The great calamity was coming. Those demon emperors and demon gods would probably recover completely. Du Xiaofu knew that he did not have time to wait at all. With his current cultivation, if he wanted to improve his cultivation by leaps and bounds in a short period of time, he could only look for spiritual thunder and various great opportunities. Only by increasing his strength could he have more power to resist the great calamity that was coming soon. At present, Du Xiaofu knew very well that he could not even deal with the 9 demon emperors, let alone the great demon emperor. What was more terrifying was that there was still the demon god. Even the dragon god and the master of the 3,000 great worlds could not completely kill him. In addition, Du Xiaofu did not think that the legalism would give up. There was also the school of vertical and horizontal, the dragons, and the others who had a deep hatred for each other. It was unlikely that they could resolve it. Du Xiaofu didn't think about resolving it either. With his current strength and cultivation, he was far from enough to face the people from the school of vertical and horizontal, the dragon clan, and the school of legalism who had come out of the eternal tomb. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's expression changed. With a thought, he waved his hand and a Qinkuan bag appeared in his hand. This was an ordinary Qinkuan bag. It appeared to be ancient, and it emitted an ancient and boundless aura. There was nothing special about it. However, at this moment, there was a glimmer of light flickering within it. However, it quickly disappeared. Du Xiaofu was sure that his eyes were not playing tricks on him. What surprised Du Xiaofu was that this Qinkuan bag was the one that the great elder of Xiaoyu had given to him when Tianwu Academy was being massacred by the Divine Light Court. He said that the ancestors of the academy had predicted that if Tianwu Academy were to face a great calamity one day, it would definitely be because of the items in this Qinkuan bag. The items in this Qinkuan bag were related to the rise of Tianwu Academy. The ancestors of the academy had set up a seal on it, and only the fated people could open it. As for what was inside the Qinkuan bag, no one knew. Du Xiaofu had kept this Qinkuan bag in his hand all this time. He remembered the words of the great elder of Xiaoyu and could not let this Qinkuan bag fall into the hands of anyone else. Holding the Qinkuan bag in his hand, Du Xiaofu's soul probed into the Qinkuan bag. However, he realized that even with the power of his soul, he still felt like a stone sinking into the ocean. He could not see what was inside the Qinkuan bag. What is inside?
Yes.
Du Xiaofu withdrew the power of his soul and slowly exhaled from his abdomen. He had clearly sensed some fluctuations in the Qinkuan bag, which had been motionless all this time. After a while, Du Xiaofu put away the Qinkuan bag. It seemed that if he wanted to know what was inside the Qinkuan bag, he would have to wait for an opportunity. There are quite a few people here, Little Star said. Although they had restrained their auras, there were still quite a few experts who had discovered them and were secretly peeping over. These auras naturally could not escape the detection of Little Star's soul. He discovered quite a few familiar auras. Du Xiaofu had long sensed that there were quite a few auras peeping over. When he heard Little Star's words, he probed with his soul. At this moment, there were indeed quite a few familiar auras in the surroundings of the vast sea. Among them, there were quite a few that were extremely powerful. Du Xiaofu's soul swept over and discovered quite a few familiar people. Xiang Wushuang, Xiang Zhangsheng, and the others were among them. However, when the auras came into contact with Du Xiaofu's Little Stars, and the others' auras immediately withdrew as if they had been electrocuted. They were afraid that they would provoke this group of people. "Let's rest first," said Fire Lightning. He did not care about the experts around him, nor did he intend to pay attention to them. Then, everyone sat down cross-legged in the canyon and closed their eyes to rest. The ancient wilderness fearsome grounds were too dangerous. No one dared to be careless. They had to maintain their peak and be cautious at all times. There were constantly creatures coming over from all directions. However, with Little Tiger and Du Xiaoqing deliberately releasing some auras, it was enough to prevent anyone from approaching the canyon. However, there were exceptions. Soon after, Xian Gu arrived. Although Du Xiaofu had already stepped into the Saint Realm, he still stood up to welcome Xian Gu. He thanked Xian Gu for his help. A few hours later, above the void, a blue flame spread out. A loud and clear cry spread out. The blue flame rose and spread across the sky like a small blue sun. A blue luan spread its wings and flew over. Its gorgeous tail feathers were covered with blue runes. It was lively and majestic, showing the aura of a supreme beast. Roar, following the appearance of this blue luan. The demonic beasts in the distance and in the sea kept roaring and trembling. On the back of the blue luan, a graceful figure stood. Her eyes were clear and pure. It was so pure that it made people feel as if they did not eat the food of mortals. She was like a wisp of smoke, graceful and graceful. She was so beautiful that she could topple cities. She was so beautiful that she stunned the world. The disturbance caused Du Xiaofu to open his eyes as well. He looked at the azure phoenix and the beauty in the sky as a smile rose from the corner of his mouth. "It's Xingyu." Du Xiaoqing was surprised and shouted at the void. "Xingyu, we're here." It's little Qing and brother Xiaofu. When the beautiful woman heard this, she looked down at the figure above the canyon. Her beautiful face was instantly filled with a smile. Her smile was so beautiful that it could topple cities. She could no longer wait and directly rushed down. Then the blue luan's huge body flickered and turned into a girl in blue. Her long eyelashes were slightly curled, and she had a mysterious and supreme temperament. At dusk, another beautiful woman arrived. Her appearance was peerless. Her long and slender legs were wrapped in tight clothes. Her curves were alluring and outlined a devilish figure. When such a woman appeared, Du Xiaofu immediately went to greet her. The ancient, desolate, fearsome ground seems to be completely open. Master asked me to go in. After a while, after everyone exchanged greetings, Ouyang Shuang said to Du Xiaofu, "What are the herbs to take note of in the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground?" "Did Senior Bei Qi say anything?" Du Xiaofu asked Ouyang Shuang. Du Xiaofu reckoned that an expert like Crazy Bei Qi might know more about the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground than Huolei Laozu. Chapter 2249. Ouyang Shuang shook her head and said to Du Xiaofu, "Even my master has never entered the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds. Even Senior Bei Qi has never entered it?" Du Xiaofu was a bit surprised. From master's tone, it seems that master, Fui Bai, Nanru, Shi Yao, and other seniors are all unable to enter the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds. There seems to be some kind of restriction, Ouyang Shuang said to Du Xiaofu after some hesitation. This was just her guess from her master's tone, but she wasn't sure about the specifics. There's such a restriction. Du Xiaofu was even more surprised. There are many restrictions in the present world, but not many people know about them. This ancient, desolate, ominous grounds is even more mysterious. According to my guess, this place might have something to do with you. Master Huale opened his mouth and looked at Du Xiaofu. He wanted to say something but stopped. His gaze flickered, and then he said, "Let's talk about it in the future." In short, the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds are very complicated. Du Xiaofu didn't ask any more questions. Night had already fallen. In the depths of the sea and the surrounding mountains, there were occasional low roars of monsters. "It's moving, as if it's being summoned. I can feel that it's related to the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds." Under the cover of the night and the moonlight, Ouyang Shuang nestled in Du Xiaofu's arms and stroked her slightly bulging belly. Ever since that mysterious yellow round stone entered her stomach, it gave her the feeling of nurturing a new life. It was also because of this mysterious stone that her cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. "There's movement." Du Xiaofu focused. Ever since that mysterious yellow stone entered Ouyang Shuang's body last time, he had been worried. That stone was too mysterious, and he couldn't pry into it with his soul. No matter what he did, there was no reaction. He had even tried dripping blood on it to recognize it as its master. Du Xiaofu frowned. He had once tried to use force to split that yellow round stone, but found that it was harder than any other object. He couldn't damage it in the slightest. Even the five-colored spiritual stove and talisman cauldron couldn't refine it. "It has no ill intentions towards me. I can feel it." Seeing Du Xiaofu's nervousness, Ouyang Shuang smiled faintly. All these years, the mysterious stone in her stomach had allowed her to feel that no matter what it was, it would not harm her. "I hope so." Du Xiaofu was also able to sense that the mysterious stone did not have any ill intentions, but he could only feel helpless and helpless. He was very clear that the mysterious yellow stone was filled with an ancient aura and was indestructible. This was enough to prove that it was definitely not an ordinary object. The Desolation Leopard had once said that the stone was obtained from an ancient land in the ancient, desolate continent. When it appeared, it had caused a phenomenon in the surroundings, causing clouds to move, lightning to flash, and thunder to rumble. The stone came from the ancient, desolate continent, but it seemed to be related to the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds. Du Xiaofu was puzzled. "Don't worry, I'll be fine." Ouyang Shuang looked up and raised her delicate hand slightly, caressing his resolute face. Her large eyes were filled with tenderness as she smiled faintly, a smile that could topple the world. Looking at the face in front of him, Du Xiaofu could no longer hold back. He lowered his head and kissed her gently. Her large eyes closed slightly, and she pouted slightly. Her red lips were alluring as they gently touched. Their lips touched, and they stopped after tasting briefly. Then, they entangled, plundered, and passionately entangled. Under the moonlight, this man and woman enjoyed a rare tenderness. Swoosh, swoosh, in the dark night, there were constantly outstanding cultivators descending around this sea region. The ancient, desolate, ominous grounds spread more and more, and some ancient sects and factions that had not shown themselves before began to appear. Such an ominous ground was also accompanied by a huge opportunity, enough to attract the attention of all the experts in the world. Usually, this place was desolate and uninhabited, but at this moment, it was extremely lively in the dark night. There were also some small disputes, but they quickly subsided. Time passed slowly, and soon, it was dawn. The dark gray clouds that had accumulated in the night gradually melted. From afar, the surface of the sea region seemed to be covered by a thin, translucent mist. The light in the morning was like the beginning of chaos, separating light and darkness. The sky that was covered by thick layers of clouds cracked open, and the sky was filled with red clouds. A moment later, the sea region was filled with golden waves, and the red sun was like a furnace of boiling lava. The golden light was dazzling, and the sky was filled with red light. On top of a giant rock in the canyon, Du Xiaofu, who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. He raised his head and looked at the void above. In the depths of the sea region, a crack was slowly opening and quietly tearing open. At the same time, the surface of the sea region began to surge. Crazy waves surged, and terrifying waves were set off. At this moment, in front of everyone's shocked gazes, a huge crack appeared in the depths of the void, slowly revealing a vast ancient land. It was as if a part of the world was falling. It's open. Master Hualei stood up and looked at the void in front of him. His eyes were covered with red and blue flames. Rumble. The heaven and earth trembled, and the tides rose. The ancient, desolate, ominous grounds had finally opened. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The sea and the sky were flipped upside down, and the islands and reefs trembled. The crack in the void expanded rapidly, as if it was opening the entrance to a new world. It's the ominous grounds that has opened. Many exclamations came from all directions. In the vast ancient land that looked like a new world, light shone. Runes were resplendent, and white mist was faintly discernible. It was like the energy of immortals, and there were bursts of sacrificial sounds. It was as if they had returned to an extremely ancient era. There were many ominous grounds chanting, and the divine sounds were deafening. Mysterious runes overflowed from the void endlessly. This kind of movement made people unable to hold themselves back. Many experts had already soared into the sky to fight for the great opportunities. Walala! At this moment, the entire world was filled with surging energy. The white mist fluctuated, and the divine sounds came from the heaven and earth. There's movement again. Du Xiaofu stood up, and the Qinkuan pouch that the great elder gave him appeared in his hand. At this moment, mysterious runes flickered on the Qinkuan pouch as if it was attracted by something, but it soon disappeared. It's reacting again. Just as Du Xiaofu was surprised, Ouyang Shuang, who was beside him, spoke. The mysterious yellow stone in her stomach was reacting again. It was squirming and glowing. Old ancestor, there's a mysterious thing in her body. I wonder what it is. Du Xiaofu informed Hualei Laozu. Hualei raised his eyebrows, and a bright scarlet-blue flame arc wrapped around Ouyang Shuang. As the scarlet-blue flame arc wrapped around her, the mysterious stone in Ouyang Shuang's stomach suddenly calmed down. Strange, I don't know what it is. After a while, Hualei Laozu frowned. He was puzzled. He didn't know what it was, and he couldn't expel it from Ouyang Shuang's body. Looks like there's no other way. This was also within Du Xiaofu's expectations. Crazy, Ol and the others didn't know what the mysterious stone was, and Hualei Laozu also didn't know. Chapter 2250. Dad, when are we going in? Little Xingxing asked Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu looked at the void in front of him. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly looked at the void to the side. Many figures appeared in the distant sky, and waves of invisible but terrifying auras spread out. The more powerful one was, the more one would be able to sense such a terrifying aura. Those who weren't strong enough couldn't even feel the existence of such auras. They're here. Hualei looked at where Du Xiaofu was looking. Electric arcs appeared in his red-blue eyes. Thunder flames flickered. Those old guys from the eternal tomb. Do they also want to enter the ancient barren ominous ground? Little Xingxing frowned. The demonic mark between her eyebrows shone faintly. Those powerful auras in the distance couldn't escape her detection. They were the terrifying ancient cultivators from the eternal tomb. Even with her current cultivation, she was a bit afraid. She knew that those old guys weren't to be trifled with. Don't worry. They're just here to try. I've already tested it. They can't enter, Hualei said Master Hualei. He was a bit disappointed. He had already tried it with his mind, but there was still a limit to the fearsome land. Those who had entered it once couldn't enter it again. He had come here with the intention of testing it out, but he had already tested it, and there was still a limit to the fearsome land that prevented him from entering. Amitba, as Hualei's voice fell, there was a Buddhist chant in the sky. The sound of Sanskrit was faintly discernible. Sutras were chanted. In the void, there were several figures in the sky. Their auras were powerful. The one in the front was an old monk. He didn't hide much of his Saint Plain aura. It's the old monk from the Buddhist school. There's also Ninefold Spirit and Hung Luan. Yi Piaoling's pitch-black eyes were full of spirit. Those were the cultivators from the Buddhist school. She was no stranger to Ninefold Spirit and Hung Luan. Back then, the 18 celestial guards had fought with them in a joint formation. It's not just the Buddhist school. They're all here, Du Xiaoyao said. Her spiritual eyes shone with golden light. Whoosh, whoosh. As Du Xiaoyao's voice fell, a large number of figures appeared from the void above the sea region. Their light was dazzling. Their auras were vast, shaking the sky. Du Xiaofu saw many familiar figures. Taoist priest Qingfeng, Su Yangzi, and several others. Meng Qianhe of Confucianism, and Jiang Yuechan of the School of Agriculture. Kong Sansi and Zhou Xiaoluo. Yu Su of the Demon Vulture clan, Shiyu of the Heavenly Serpent clan, and Shi Hongtu of the Red Fire Demon Lion clan. These three familiar Saint Realm cultivators also appeared, each bringing a few people with them. Su Sanyan from the School of Vertical and Horizontal and Hui Wu from the famous guild had also appeared. They had brought a few people with them. Of legalism to legalism Yu Chuan, Lu Yao to Tanilu to, there to elder to him to was elder. Was ye but the to legalism. Elder to elder. Elder was elder. To the was to the elder were of elders few. Du Xiaojing's eyes rippled as he looked at Elder Ming and the unkempt middle-aged man. Miss Xiaojing. Elder Ming tore through the void and appeared. He immediately sensed the strongest auras among the group, Du Xiaofu and the others. Then, he bowed to Du Xiaojing from afar. The men and women behind Elder Ming looked at Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaojing, Du Tingxian, and the others from afar. They gritted their teeth and secretly revealed a chill. However, they did not dare to show it too obviously. Elder Ming. Du Xiaojing looked up and nodded. His face was calm. He nodded to the unkempt middle-aged man from afar. Du Xiaofu knew who he was. When he first entered legalism and lost his mind, it was Elder Ming and him who saved his life for a short period of time. Du Xiaofu had repaid Elder Ming's favor. However, he had not repaid his second uncle's favor. Du Xiaofu had heard from his mother that his second uncle had been helping him in legalism all these years. However, the gap between him and legalism was too great. Du Xiaofu was unable to call him second uncle. Du Xiaofu was secretly surprised when he felt Elder Ming's aura. However, he was not surprised. After the last time they fought, he did not expect Elder Ming to have stepped into the Saint Demon realm during this period of time. Beside Elder Ming and the unkempt middle-aged man, there was a young man who looked to be in his 30s. His face was a little pale, but his gaze was cold. He looked at Du Xiaofu, Du Tingxian, and the others from afar with cold hatred. He snorted coldly and then flew towards the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds. The unkempt middle-aged man looked at Du Xiaofu, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, and the others under his messy hair. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, revealing a faint smile. Then, he followed Elder Ming behind the young man. Roar. A deafening dragon roar and a supreme beast aura descended. A figure with a vast aura descended. It was Long Qianxiao of the Dragon's clan. He brought a few people with powerful auras. Hu Xuanhu of the Emo clan also appeared. He tore through space and brought Emo Runin, Sima Muhan, and a few others with him. Ku! Deafening cries rang out. The Phoenix clan's Saint Feng Qi also came. He brought Zixin, Huang Ling Feng Han, Feng Chu, Feng Wu, and several others. It seems like everyone wants to take a gamble this time, Hua Lei said indifferently as he looked at the experts of the various sects who had appeared in the sky above the sea. Du Xiaofu looked at the experts of the various sects and understood what Hua Lei meant. The experts of the ancient sects who had come out of the eternal tomb clearly knew that even saints would find it difficult to protect themselves in the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds. Yet, they still brought so many supreme heavens prides of the younger generation with them. It was obvious that they wanted to take a gamble and obtain a great opportunity. The great calamity was coming. The opening of the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds had pushed the 9 great clans, the dragons, and the phoenixes to a point where they could no longer resist. Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu was lost in thought. Sima Muhan's beautiful figure appeared. You actually broke through a lot. It seems like you didn't slack off. Looking at the beautiful face in front of him, compared to before, it was more mature and charming. Her aura was even more vigorous and vast. Of course, during this period, the divine ancestor personally taught us. Sima Muhan smiled. When she saw Du Tingxian, Ouyang Shuang, and Du Xiaojing, her cheeks suddenly blushed. She stepped forward and greeted them. Mother, I missed you so much. Little Xingxing had already flown to Zixian's side with a pure smile on his little face. Little girl, I missed you too. Zixian smiled. Her eyes were like purple suns, as if she could see through everything in the world. Her purple robe was fluttering in the air with purple flames on it. She looked at Du Xiaofu from afar and didn't step forward. Her temperament was otherworldly. Chapter 22:51. Greetings, Spirit Lord. When they saw little Xingxing, Huang Wu, Huang Ling and the others bowing, they gasped secretly. This little guy looked harmless, but in fact, he was the most terrifying existence. At such a young age, he had already stepped into the sacred beast realm and even obtained the vermilion bird's inheritance. Compared to him, they, the supreme sky prides of the Phoenix clan, wished they could dig a hole and hide in it. Don't stand on ceremony. Little Xingxing waved his hand at Huang Ling, and the others. Greetings, Grand Shaman. Kong Sansi and several others from the Confucian school came before Du Xiaofu and bowed. Although the Grand Shaman was only an honorific of the Confucian school, everyone in the Confucian school knew how important this Grand Shaman was. Du Xiaofu waved his sleeve and smiled at Ming Qianhe, Jiang Yuechan, Hu Xuanhu, and the other familiar figures. Du Xiaofu would never forget the Taoist school and the Confucian school's help. Although he was now a saint, he didn't dare to be arrogant. Rock Emperor, we'll take our leave first. Hu Xuanhu, Jiang Yuechan, Ming Qianhe, and the others said from afar as they flew toward the ancient wilderness. Whoosh whoosh, the experts from the other mountain sects didn't want to be left behind. Awoo! Above the sea, the roars of beasts were like thunder. Many King Realm experts from the beast region appeared. Living beings seemed to be competing. Their figures were like lightning, and their auras were vast. Du Xiaofu looked at the sky and saw some familiar figures with powerful auras crossing the sky. They were Hongyue, Violet Lotus Fairy, and the others from the Yao realm. Master Flamespark also noticed the people from the Yao realm. He glanced at them, and something flashed in his eyes. Screech! Above the sky, spatial cracks were torn open again. Golden light shone, illuminating the sea. The faint cry of a rock pierced through the clouds and cracked rocks. The experts of the Golden-Winged Rock Clan had arrived. Jialo Batian, Jialo Jueyu, Jialo Kaling, Jialo Juekong, and the other familiar figures all arrived. Their auras were domineering and fierce. Grandmother. Du Xiaofu saw a familiar figure. It was the old Granny Jialo Mola. At this moment, the old lady who was originally staggering seemed to have regained her vitality. Her aura was powerful and domineering, incomparably terrifying. Her eyes were like two golden suns contained within them. That was clearly the aura of a holy beast. Greetings, Grandpa, Grandma. Du Xiaofu saluted them in the air. He was happy that the old lady had stepped into the saint realm. Child. The old lady smiled kindly. Greetings, seniors. Du Xiao. Du Xiao Batian Du, and even Du Xiao Du ground, In, Ants Yu. In Lu Haha. Huang Yu. Nation, In, Yayan Yu. Nun. He Yu. Why don't you go back to your clan and take a look? After Jialo Kaling nodded at Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaojing, she fiercely rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. Her eyes were hot and inexplicably moving. If it weren't for the fact that there were many people present, she would have pulled Du Xiaofu's ears. Later, I will definitely return to the clan to visit my foster father. Du Xiaofu smiled embarrassedly. No matter when or where he faced this sworn sister of his, he would always be somewhat fearful. This kind of fear stemmed from his emotions, a bloodline emotion. At this moment, many creatures in the surroundings had already entered, and there was no danger. Let's go. It's time for us to go in. Jialo Batian stared at the opening in front of him. The entrance to the ancient, barren, ominous grounds was huge and spanned across a vast sea. Living creatures from all around had already entered, and so had people from all the major forces. Go. Be careful. Master Flamespark's voice entered Du Xiaofu's ears. I'll leave the barren country to you, great ancestor. Du Xiaofu transmitted his voice, his eyes sweeping across the void in front of him, reminding those around him to be careful. Swoosh, swoosh, in an instant, everyone's figures turned into flowing light. In a few flashes, they had already appeared in front of the entrance to the ancient barren ominous grounds. An ancient aura that seemed to have transcended time and space swept over, bringing with it a desolate killing intent. Just by arriving at the entrance, everyone could already feel the killing intent. Everyone immediately braced themselves and prepared for battle, not daring to be careless. The space at the entrance was distorted. Du Xiaofu was in the middle of it, fully focused, not daring to relax at all. From all directions, an extremely terrifying murderous aura spread out like ripples, as if it was about to spew out from this fearsome land. Even with Du Xiaofu's current cultivation, he still felt his mind becoming hot and dry, as if he was affected by it. Densely packed figures flashed past, accompanied by the thunderous roars of beasts. Batches after batches of people entered the ominous grounds. All the creatures had the same goal, to obtain a huge opportunity in the ancient barren ominous grounds. The entire sea area was in an uproar. People scrambled to enter the ancient barren ominous grounds, fearing that they would lose the opportunity if they were late. Some of the creatures knew that their cultivation was far from enough, and entering the ancient barren ominous grounds was tantamount to seeking death. However, at this moment, under the stimulation of such a crazy scene, their eyes turned red. They gritted their teeth and flew toward the ancient barren ominous grounds. Swoosh, among the crowd in the sea area, a spatial crack tore open, and many figures appeared. They were Dongli Qingqing, Dongli Ruoshu, Dongli Ruoyun, and several experts from the Fangji clan who had walked out of the heavenly devil battlefield. The leader was an old woman with a strong aura. She had stepped into the Saint realm. It seems that I can't enter the ominous grounds. You have to be careful. Du Xiaofu should have already entered. You should be the last to go with them. Be careful of the famous people. The old woman said. She had stepped into the Saint realm, but for some reason, there was a hint of regret and disappointment in her eyes. It seemed that she could not enter the ancient barren ominous grounds. Yes, master. Dongli Qingqing nodded. Her eyebrows were like emerald feathers, and her skin was as white as snow. Her hair was tied into a simple bun behind her head. Her clear eyes were like colored glaze, and she looked forward. Then, she flew away, followed by the others. In a corner of the void, a figure appeared. Under the illumination of the light, a white and fair face with distinct corners and corners could be seen, especially the shape of the lips, which seemed to be showing off nobility and elegance. Under the long and curly eyelashes, there was a pair of eyes that were as clear as the morning dew, with a faint charm. Looking forward, the young man waved his sleeves and flew toward the ancient barren ominous grounds with the tide of creatures. His dark purple brocade robe reflected a faint purple radiance under the light. As it moved, it also outlined a seductive arc. The vast ancient land gave people a sense of desolation. The broken mountains, the cracked earth, and the ancient buildings buried in the ruins showed signs of decline. Chapter 2252. Translator. H2-H2 Mr. The sky was dark red, as if blood had dyed the clouds red. In the distance, huge skeletons of giant beasts appeared. The bones were white, but they were gray without any luster. The air was filled with a murderous aura. The wind whistled, mixed with the roars of battle. It was frightening and soul-stirring. Du Xiaofu and the others landed on an ancient building that was half submerged in the ruins. They all looked around with rapt attention. Some of the creatures that entered felt the aura of this group from afar. They didn't dare to get close and had already left. As expected of the great ominous ground. Everyone, be careful. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. Although he had yet to encounter any danger after entering this ominous land, the murderous aura in the air made him not dare to be careless. Let's move alone. Yi Piaoling withdrew her gaze from the surroundings. Her pitch-black eyes looked at Du Xiaofu under the messy hair on her forehead. This ancient wilderness ominous ground is too dangerous. Even Saint Realm cultivators can't protect themselves. Du Xiaofu frowned worriedly. This was the ancient wilderness ominous ground. It was said that even Saint Realm cultivators couldn't protect themselves. Although Yi Piaoling and the others were powerful cultivators in the outside world, it was too dangerous to be separated here. Moreover, there were also legalism, famed masters, dragons, and other powerful cultivators. There are dangers everywhere. Saint Realm cultivators can't protect themselves. Who has surpassed the Saint Realm? Only through training can one transform. Dangers are also accompanied by opportunities. Yi Piaoling smiled and said to Du Xiaofu, ever since he started cultivating, he had been tempering himself in dangerous situations. Although he had Du Xiaofu's help, he was able to attain his current level of cultivation because he had been tempering himself all this time. Although this place was dangerous, Yi Piaoling wasn't afraid. His goal of entering this ominous ground was to transform and improve himself. All right, be careful. Du Xiaofu nodded. He understood Yi Piaoling's words the most. It was indeed safer to follow everyone, but he would lose the chance to train himself. Du Xiaofu knew that if it were him, he would have made the same choice. Besides, he couldn't guarantee everyone's safety. All right. Yi Piaoling nodded and left with Changguyu. I also want to walk around. I hope I can gain something. Emo Tian Xiao said. Nether Demon, Tian Sha, Dugu Finchen, and the others expressed their desire to travel alone and train themselves. Du Xiaofu understood the temperament of Emo Tian Xiao, Heavenly Demon Yelu Han, Dugu Finchen, and the others, so he didn't stop them and let them temper themselves. I'm already so old, and the great calamity is coming. There aren't many opportunities left. Let's take a gamble. Jin Qingchuan's eyes were smiling under his inverted triangular eyebrows as he bid farewell to everyone and left. Brother, father, be careful. There will be a greater chance if we travel separately. Du Xiaojing said. She also wanted to temper herself. This way, there would be a greater chance. Those ancient experts couldn't enter. She knew that with her father and brother's strength, even if they were besieged by enemies like legalism and dragons, they would be able to escape. There was no need to worry. There will be a greater chance if we travel separately. Be careful. Du Tingxian didn't stop Du Xiaojing. He already had the same plan in his heart. Old Lei didn't say anything, but from his expression, he naturally followed Du Tingxian. I also want to explore this fearsome land. Little Xingxing pouted as a faint golden flame appeared in his bright eyes. I feel that I should be able to find something in this fearsome land. Take care of yourselves. Du Xiaoyao turned into a ray of golden light and disappeared into the distance. Swoosh swoosh, Du Xiaojing, and the others didn't say anything. They left one by one. They all wanted to temper themselves alone. This fearsome land was the best place for them to do so. Let's go. Among the golden-winged rocks, Jialo Jueyu, Jialo Kaling, Jialo Juekong, and the others also left. Like Emo Tianxiao and the others, they were already prepared to temper themselves alone. Child, be careful. Jialo Mola said to Du Xiaofu. He wasn't worried. He never spoiled the young golden-winged rocks. As soon as Jialo Mola finished speaking, he left with Jialo Batian. Du Xiaofu was left with Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, Ouyang Shuang, Dai Xingyu, Little Blue who was in the true form of the Blue Phoenix, and the old monster of the Green Fox. Sima Muhan was also with the people of the Emo family before coming in. If you want to search for opportunities alone, you can go ahead, Du Xiaofu said to the old monster of the Green Fox. Then, Rock Emperor, be careful. The old monster of the Green Fox didn't stand on ceremony. After following Du Xiaofu for so long, he more or less understood Du Xiaofu's temper. He knew that there was no need to stand on ceremony. The reason he entered the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds was naturally to search for an opportunity. The old monster of the Green Fox also left. Du Xiaofu looked at Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, Dai Xingyu, Ouyang Shuang, and the others who were left with him at this moment and smiled bitterly. If Yi Piaoling, Emo Tianxiao, Dongfang Qingmu, and his big brother Jin Qingchun went alone to temper themselves, although many of them might not be as strong as Dai Xingyu and Ouyang Shuang. After all, Emo Tianxiao, Yi Piaoling, and the others had risen through tempering themselves and had rich experience. This was something that Dai Xingyu and Ouyang Shuang could not compare with. Therefore, Du Xiaofu was really worried about Ouyang Shuang, Dai Xingyu, and the others in this ancient wilderness fearsome land. Follow me. Let's go. Du Xiaofu spoke. He glanced at the area in front of him and then flew into the air. Ouyang Shuang, Dai Xingyu, Du Xiaoqing, and the others did not say anything and followed him. After Du Xiaofu and the others left for less than an hour, the number of creatures entering this ancient wilderness fearsome land had decreased by a lot. However, the sky above this sea area was densely packed with creatures. The murderous aura that swept out from the vast entrance blocked those creatures who were too weak. Although the ancient wilderness fearsome land was completely opened, it was difficult for creatures below the domain realm to pass through the murderous aura that swept out from the entrance. Some creatures who had not stepped into the domain realm tried to force their way through the murderous aura. In the end, they were affected by the murderous aura and self-exploded at the entrance. Many creatures suppressed their desire to force their way through and did not dare to risk their lives. The boiling sea area was still surging with waves. The scene was terrifying. At the corner of the entrance, a little girl and a little boy appeared. They were somewhat secretive and hiding. Although the girl was small, her two big eyes were rolling around, making her look lively. Although the little boy was not old, his body was tall and strong, giving people the feeling that he was a fierce lion or a true rock cub. These two people were none other than Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaoba, who had secretly come here. This murderous aura is so strong that it can affect the soul. Du Xiaoba looked at the entrance and felt that the murderous aura was extraordinary. He was not careless at all. Under his domineering temper, his heart was extremely delicate. Do you want me to protect you? Du Xiaohuang smiled proudly. No need, it's not difficult for me. Du Xiaoba didn't want to be outdone by his younger sister, even though he knew that his strength wasn't as good as his younger sister's. He condensed his hand seals, and there was a faint golden light fluctuation on his body. His figure directly rushed into the entrance. Father, Sister Xingxing, I'm here too. Du Xiaohuang had a smile on her face, like a little girl who had done something bad and hid it from her parents. She followed Du Xiaoba into the entrance. In the dark ancient land, murderous aura was everywhere. However, although this place was murderous, the spirit chi was extremely rich, far surpassing that of the outside world. There was also a kind of misty fog that contained an ancient aura. Breathing it in would make cultivators feel refreshed. It was obviously of great benefit to cultivation. Strange. Why is there no sacred medicine in such a place with abundant spirit chi? Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in a valley, and he was a little surprised. Although he had only been in this dangerous place for an hour, he had already passed through many places. Logically speaking, in a place with abundant spirit chi and an ancient sealed place, it should not be strange to find precious medicine and sacred medicine. However, along the way, not to mention no precious medicine and sacred medicine, Du Xiaofu did not even find the spiritual medicine, so he could not help but feel a little surprised. The murderous aura here is too strong. Spiritual medicine needs a place with abundant spirit chi, but this murderous aura is enough to make it difficult for it to survive. Dai Xingyu said to Du Xiaofu. Under the guidance of her master, she was no longer the little girl from before. Little girl, you know a lot, Du Xiaofu praised. This little girl was no longer the same as before. Then, the group continued to set off carefully. In this ancient land, there was a misty fog, and the mountains rose and fell continuously, revealing the vicissitudes of life. There were white bones buried in the ground, and the soil and mountains were dark red as if they were dyed red by blood, adding to the murderous aura. This dangerous place is probably the final battlefield of the Dragon Phoenix tribulation. It seems that many fierce creatures were buried back then. Ouyang Shuang checked the eerie white bones on the ground. They were huge, but unfortunately, they had turned into ordinary bones, and there were no secret bones left. Everyone said that this was the final battlefield of the Dragon Phoenix tribulation. My master also said that, so it should be true. I wonder if there are still remnants of the blood essence of the true dragon and true phoenix here. If we can get it, it will be a great opportunity. As Dai Xingyu spoke, her eyes were shining. She looked forward to it, hoping that she would have the chance to get such a great opportunity. Du Xiaofu smiled. Not to mention that he didn't know whether there would be true dragon and true phoenix blood essence. Even if there was, such an opportunity would definitely not be easy to obtain. Little girl, be careful. Although this dangerous place is very far away, it is full of great danger everywhere. Don't be careless, Ouyang Shuang said to Dai Xingyu. Boom! Before Ouyang Shuang finished speaking, there was a tremor in the mountains not far away, like an earthquake. Accompanied by fog, there was a brilliant light. Chapter 22:53. Let's go. Du Xiaofu gazed towards the source of the commotion and flashed over. There was a vast ancient mountain range before them. There were huge mottled ancient trees, but they were covered in withered branches and withered leaves. Rumble. Suddenly, space trembled as an energy palm suddenly descended from the sky and smashed down towards Du Xiaofu and the others. The terrifying palm was mottled with an ancient aura. The talisman markings on it glowed resplendently, and it seemed capable of blotting out the sky. It emanated a terrifying might that shattered space. It was too sudden, and it was such a dangerous attack. Fortunately, Du Xiaofu and the others had been extremely careful, and they'd sensed it a long time ago. Golden light swept out and carried Du Xiaoqing, Ouyang Shuang, and the others away swiftly. Bang! 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 The energy palm struck the place where Du Xiaofu and the others had just landed. The mountain was instantly shattered, and an abyss-like crack appeared in the ground. That was close. Little Tiger Du frowned. That energy palm from before was probably sufficient to smash a peak overlord realm expert into meat paste. Du Xiaofu gazed into the distance. That energy palm from before had been too sudden, and it carried an ancient aura as if it came from the primordial times. Big brother Xiaofu, there's someone there, and there's an ancient restriction as well. Dai Xingyu gazed at the mountain range before them, and she seemed to have noticed something. Be careful. Du Xiaofu shot out once more, and he could sense the auras of many living beings up ahead. The mountain range was very strange. It flickered with light, and there were shattered talisman markings that glowed and dimmed. They carried an ancient aura as if they contained an ancient aura. In front of a valley, there was a remnant restriction. It was like a barrier, and it seemed to lead to another mysterious place. Ancient seal. Du Xiaofu furrowed his brows. The aura of the powerful energy handprint that appeared just now was exactly the same as the aura of the restriction. It seemed that the one who had attacked him just now was not a person, but someone who had triggered this ancient restriction. The reason was very simple. Many creatures were fighting fiercely in front of him. Boom! The mountain rocks in front of him exploded. Many creatures were exchanging blows. Actually, there were only a few people who were truly exchanging blows. Even more creatures were watching from afar, as if they wanted to act according to the situation. In the fierce battle, a large black ape and a white-haired old man were the fiercest. Roar! It was a huge black ape. Its body was only a few dozen meters tall, but its aura was extremely terrifying. It was at the peak of the Beast region's master region. It was probably not far from the Saint Realm. Swish, swish. The white-haired elder held a treasured sword in his hand as he continuously clashed with the black ape. The battle was extremely intense, and the sword light was resplendent as it cut through the void. He's not far from the Saint Realm. Very powerful. Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger Du, and the others were shocked as they watched the fierce battle between the black ape and the white-haired elder. They were two experts, but they didn't usually appear in the outside world. Otherwise, experts at this level would be very famous and easy to recognize. You old bastard Qijian, you killed my descendant and cut off my bloodline. I won't let you off today. The black ape spoke. Its attacks were fierce, and its eyes were ferocious as it continuously attacked the white-haired elder. I only killed a few of your bloodline. At my level of cultivation, what's the use of having descendants? If you want more, you can just have more. The white-haired elder seemed to have the demeanor of a transcendent being, but his voice was gloomy. Sword light surrounded him, blocking the black ape's fierce attacks. You old bastard, you killed my bloodline. I'll kill you today. The black ape roared, and its body expanded. It then became 100 feet tall in front of many trembling eyes. It was like a towering mountain, emitting a black energy light. The void trembled as it raised its hand. A claw print seemed to tear through the void as it slammed toward the white-haired elder. It seemed to be able to tear through everything. What a powerful ape! Such a claw caused many of the creatures around to change their expressions. There were few below the Saint Realm who could compare to such strength. The white-haired elder's expression turned serious. He didn't dare to be careless. The treasured sword in his hand became increasingly dazzling as he used his ultimate move. He condensed a sword art and slashed out with a terrifying sword. Whoosh! Such a collision caused energy to surge, tearing through the void and the earth. It shook the ground as if there was an earthquake. It was extremely shocking. Arg! Some of the unlucky creatures around were affected, and screams were heard. I can't be bothered to tangle with you. The white-haired elder resisted the black ape's claw. His figure suddenly streaked through the air like lightning, instantly entering the ancient seal. Where do you think you're going? The black ape roared, and its body shrunk to dozens of feet. It then chased after him and entered the ancient seal as well. There must be an opportunity inside. Seeing that the black ape and the white-haired elder had entered, the surrounding creatures could no longer hold back and rushed in one after another. They felt that there was an ancient seal in this place, and that there would be a great harvest. Big brother, should we go in? Du Shaoqing and the others fell behind Du Xiaofu. Seeing that many creatures had already entered the ancient seal, they couldn't help but feel a little tempted. Wait, don't be careless. Du Xiaofu raised his hand to stop them. From the sudden appearance of the powerful energy handprint and the faintly uneasy feeling in his mind, he reckoned that the ancient seal in front of them was definitely not a good place. Even if there was a great treasure, it was best to act according to the circumstances. Du Xiaofu waited for only a few minutes. The ancient seal in front of them rippled, and a figure rushed out quickly. Puffed! Some of the figures seemed to be in an extremely sorry state. They seemed to have been sent flying and spat out blood. Chi La! A sword beam pierced through the void, piercing through the figure that was sent flying and killing him. Swish, swish. Another few sword beams shot out, mercilessly killing, cutting a few creatures that were about to rush out into pieces. Whoosh! A figure rushed out. His clothes were tattered, and he looked to be in a sorry state. He held a treasured sword in his hand and had a powerful aura. It was the white-haired elder who had entered the ancient seal first. It was unknown how the white-haired elder came out, as if he had experienced something terrifying. Then, he immediately saw Du Xiaofu and the others in the distance. His eyes turned blood red, and there was a strange fluctuation of runes. He charged towards Du Xiaofu and the others, and the sword beam directly shattered the void. It was fierce and merciless. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. His attack was also straightforward. He directly raised his hand and slapped forward. In an instant, golden light swept out. Bang! The white-haired elder's sword beam was directly shattered, as if it couldn't withstand a single blow. However, Du Xiaofu was surprised by this. Not long ago, he'd sensed that the white-haired elder's strength was only at the peak of the Overlord realm. However, the might of that sword strike from before was sufficient to reach the half-saint realm. It was inconceivable. The old man didn't seem to have concealed his cultivation just now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to escape the senses of Chen Shi's soul. Kill! The white-haired elder was blasted back, but he didn't fear death. His killing intent surged as he charged forward once more. He slashed down with his sword, and the sword beam tore space apart. Energy surged violently and revealed a long spatial rift. It was merciless. Du Xiaofu's face instantly sank. Even though he sensed that the white-haired elder seemed to have been affected by something, Du Xiaofu didn't care what the reason was from the white-haired elder's killing intent. You're courting death. Du Xiaofu snorted coldly. Golden light surged out from his body as his aura suddenly became domineering and sharp. He threw out a punch without any fancy moves. This was a martial technique that Du Xiaofu had only comprehended recently. He had obtained it from the heavenly demon battlefield. It was called the Star-Shattering Fist, and he had used it against the Azure Fox monster in the past. Boom! Bang! As the punch shot out, the air in its path was compressed to the point of exploding. Space distorted and collapsed. In the end, it forcefully collided with the white-haired elder's sword. Suddenly, the sharp sound of metal clashing rang out. Rumble. Afterwards, terrifying energy runes swept out, and the surrounding space exploded like fireworks, illuminating the mountain range. Bang! Bang! Space cracked. The white-haired elder bore the brunt of the attack, and his body was reduced to a mist of blood. Dai Xingyu and Ouying Shuang both gasped on behalf of Du Xiaofu when they saw this. It shouldn't be that simple inside. Wait for me here. Don't act rashly. After killing the white-haired elder, Du Xiaofu did not care. Instead, he was curious about what was inside the ancient restriction. It was definitely not simple. However, Du Xiaofu did not dare to let Du Xiaoqing, Ouying Shuang, and the others take the risk. After all, the white-haired elder was an expert who was not far from the Saint Realm. Even he seemed to have been greatly affected by the restriction. After that, Du Xiaofu also entered the ancient restriction. His body was wrapped in a golden chi light shield, and he was on high alert. Inside the ancient restriction, the space was distorted and somewhat blurry. The further they went, the more powerful the killing intent became. It could corrode the primordial spirit. So it's because of this. Du Xiaofu immediately understood why the white-haired elder would kill as if he had lost his mind. It turned out that he was really affected by the killing intent. This kind of killing intent was too strong, causing Du Xiaofu to secretly feel a sense of irritation. Although the white-haired elder was not weak, the killing intent was unstoppable. Du Xiaofu also became serious in his heart. It was no wonder that it was said that this place was extremely dangerous. It was very difficult for people below the sage realm to come out of this place. It was indeed very dangerous. Even a sage expert couldn't easily resist the murderous aura of this place. Before long, a huge vortex seemed to appear in the blurry space ahead. It was incomparably vast, like a nebula that revolved around it. As it rotated, cracks faintly appeared, allowing Du Xiaofu to clearly see a corner of it. Within it was a vast land, a pitch-black mountain range, an incomparably large white skeleton, and a vast expanse of broken walls and ruins. It was also emitting an extremely terrifying killing intent. The killing intent radiated from afar. Du Xiaofu could not help but tremble with the strength of his primordial spirit that contained the scarlet horse's bloodline soul and several spirit lightnings. Chapter 22:54. What is this place? It's so terrifying. Du Xiaofu frowned. That place was too terrifying. He had never seen such a killing intent before. Roar! The roar of an ape rang out. Du Xiaofu saw the black ape that had entered earlier. At this moment, the black ape's figure had expanded to 100 zhang. Light filled the sky, as if it was burning. Its huge eyes were blood-red, as if they were covered in blood. For some reason, it charged into the spinning nebula. But in just a short instant, the black ape directly exploded within the nebula. It exploded soundlessly, and even the nebula did not ripple much. The black ape's cultivation was not low. Just like that, it turned into a bloody mist before Du Xiaofu's eyes, and then disappeared. But it was this silent disappearance that caused Du Xiaofu's spirit to suddenly tighten. A feeling of extreme danger spread out from the bottom of his heart. This feeling of extreme danger was something Du Xiaofu had never felt before. Whoosh! Within the nebula, the killing intent suddenly fluctuated. The nebula that had not rippled when the black ape exploded just now was now fluctuating, spreading towards Du Xiaofu. Not good. Du Xiaofu's heart tightened. He did not dare to stay any longer. Golden light surged out from the soles of his feet, and he retreated with all his might. The nebula behind him spun, swallowing everything in its path. There was no escape. Du Xiaofu's figure was like lightning as he escaped from the barrier. Rumble. As Du Xiaofu fled, the space behind him also collapsed inch by inch. The ancient restrictive barrier turned into nothingness. A large area of the mountain top split open, and huge rocks were swept away, and then disappeared. A monstrous killing intent rushed out from the ancient restrictive barrier that had turned into nothingness and engulfed Du Xiaofu's body. Golden light burst out, and golden talisman runes turned into a pair of golden wings that covered his body. Chi-la-la, however, that terrifying murderous intent still shook Du Xiaofu's figure until he stabilized himself a few dozen feet away. The golden light talisman script retracted. Looking back, Du Xiaofu saw that the ancient restrictive barrier had already disappeared. He still felt a lingering fear. Du Xiaofu knew best that with the power of the Yuan spirit of an ordinary early-stage Saint Realm cultivator, even if they did not die, they would be seriously injured. Big Brother, Third Young Master. Seeing Du Xiaofu's figure, Du Xiaofu's editor, Lucas, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, Dai Xingyu, Ouyang Shuang and the others immediately rushed. Let's go. This place is not a good place, Du Xiaofu said to everyone. The things he had encountered earlier, as well as the vast ancient land shrouded in nebulas, were likely to contain some opportunities. However, Du Xiaofu didn't intend to explore them. Even if there was a huge opportunity, he didn't want to try it. He had to consider the fact that Du Xiaoqing, Ouyang Shuang and the others were still around. Du Xiaofu did not linger. He led everyone away. It was much safer to leave this ominous place as soon as possible. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had a new understanding of the dangers of the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds. It could be said that he had truly experienced it. No wonder Huolei Laozu said that even a Saint Realm cultivator could not guarantee that they could get out alive. An ordinary early-stage Saint Realm cultivator would have been in trouble. Therefore, Du Xiaofu did not dare to be careless along the way. They also encountered many creatures along the way. However, those creatures avoided Du Xiaofu as soon as they saw him from afar. They did not have any intention to approach him. Everyone knew that even if the Demon King Du Xiaofu would not target them, they would not have a chance to get the treasures if they were too close to the Demon King Du Xiaofu. I don't know how big this place is, Ouyang Shuang said. Everyone's current speed was extremely fast. However, they did not know how vast this ancient, desolate, ominous place was. It seemed boundless, and they could not see the end. It should not be smaller than the heavenly devil battlefield, Du Xiaofu said. The sky was dusky in this vast, ancient land. They did not have any harvest along the way. Occasionally, there would be a few scattered ancient weapons. However, they had lost their luster as if they had been obliterated by something. They were not of much significance to Du Xiaofu. They were very fast, but compared to Du Xiaofu's normal speed, it was considered very slow. After all, Little Qing, Little Tiger, and the others could not catch up. There seems to be some movement ahead. In the air, Du Xiaofu's silhouette halted as he stared ahead. There was a commotion there. There's the aura of the Phoenix clan. Little Qing of the Cyan Phoenix clan raised her eyebrows as she felt the aura of her clan. Let's go. Du Xiaofu felt the aura of the Phoenix clan. His heart tightened as he was worried about Zixian. He immediately flew up into the sky. The sky was dark, and it seemed a little depressing. A vast plain appeared in front of them. However, the void was shrouded in fog. It was so thick that it was like a haze. The higher they went, the thicker the fog was. It was so thick that they could not see anything. It was accompanied by a mysterious aura that could affect the primordial spirit. I feel a mysterious aura. It's very ancient and very dangerous. As they approached the plain, Ouyang Shuang secretly focused. Her big and beautiful eyes were shining. Du Xiaofu reminded everyone to be careful. He landed carefully and released his primordial spirit to be on guard. Although the mysterious aura here could affect the primordial spirit, it could only affect it. It could not be completely isolated. There were spatial energy fluctuations in the surroundings. It seemed that someone had just fought. As the group slowly approached, Du Xiaofu saw that the fog was gradually revealing a stretch of dilapidated fences and dilapidated walls. Some of these places were still quite well preserved. The whole structure was towering and magnificent. After so many years, it still gave people a sense of majesty and grandeur. The place was grayish-white. The ground was covered with a special kind of jade. Many places were broken and overturned. There were mysterious runes everywhere, but they had lost their luster. However, there was still a mysterious power in the distance. Buzz. In the distance, there were even traces of electric arcs. Demon King Du Xiaofu. He's here. Not good. Why is this guy here? Some figures with extraordinary auras appeared in the surroundings. However, when they saw Du Xiaofu, they immediately murmured. Many gazes appeared in the fog and fell on Du Xiaofu and the others. Rock Emperor. Rock Emperor. Several figures came over with extraordinary auras. The one in the lead was the alluring Huang Ling-er. Her slender legs were alluring, and Feng Han was beside her. Su Yangzi of the Daoist sect was also among them. The other two were Bailey Wuya and Mu Jianchen, whom Du Xiaofu was quite surprised. Du Xiaofu did not expect these two guys to also enter this place of great danger. This should be an ancient mountain gate. There are powerful ancient arrays. Although it is broken and incomplete, it is still very dangerous. Feng Han directly told Du Xiaofu the situation here. Chapter 22:55. Du Xiaofu scanned his surroundings but didn't see Zixian. Most likely, she wasn't with Huang Ling-er. However, there were quite a few experts gathered around. Most of them were Yao experts from the Beast region. Quite a few of them weren't weak. There were also quite a few talented youngsters who were protected by some older generation experts. After nodding at Huang Ling-er and the others, Du Xiaofu followed Feng Han's words and looked forward, sizing up the area. There really were traces of an ancient formation up ahead. Combined with the commotion just now, it was no wonder these people hadn't charged in yet. Rumbling sounds rang out. Talismans and mysterious runes suddenly lit up. Although they were incomplete, they converged into a dazzling beam of light that shot into the sky. A large area collapsed and the ground shook. Everyone was on high alert. They stared into the distance, sensing an ancient aura. There's definitely a treasure or opportunity here. I can sense the aura of a treasure. This is an extremely ancient mountain, way before the Great Dragon Phoenix tribulation. I feel like there's definitely a paragon's inheritance here. The surrounding creatures murmured with anticipation and desire. They were also quite nervous. After all, they all knew that this place was fraught with danger. Even saints could easily fall into calamity. Wealth comes from danger. This is a dangerous place, but it also has great fortune. After so long, I'd like to see just how dangerous this place can be. A burly, middle-aged man with the aura of a powerful beast spoke up. He stepped out from the crowd, his eyes blazing. He couldn't resist the urge to enter. Quite a few creatures looked at him. Some looked at him with disdain, while others sneered inwardly. They welcomed someone who was willing to be a pawn. I'll go too. A thunderous roar came from an old man in his 50s. His aura surged, and the image of a ferocious leopard appeared around him. Its aura was astonishing. It's the shocking sky leopard. He's still alive. Someone cried out in alarm. This old man was quite famous, but he hadn't appeared in a long time. He was a terrifying expert of the leopard clan of the Beast region. The two beast race experts then entered the forest. Let's go. Follow them. As the two beast men strode forward, all of the surrounding living beings also hurriedly followed suit. It doesn't seem simple. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. He could feel the aura of thunder and lightning from the depths of the cave. The fluctuating electric arcs were not simple. Should we go in? Su Yangzi asked Du Xiaofu. With this fellow by his side, it was naturally much safer. Let's go in and take a look. Du Xiaofu nodded. Although this place was not a good place, it should not be like the mysterious place in front of them. Feeling the aura of lightning, Du Xiaofu also wanted to investigate. Seeing that the Demon King and Du Xiaofu had also entered, the surrounding creatures no longer hesitated and followed behind them. Inside, there were dilapidated walls everywhere. Although some places were still intact, they were also covered in dust. Some creatures entered the ancient palace to search, but they didn't find anything. Du Xiaofu released his consciousness. With the talent of the redbone horse monkey bloodline soul, it would be difficult for treasures to escape his senses. There were piles of rubble everywhere, and the ground was cracked. There was little vegetation, and it was shrouded in mist. Huge rocks could be seen everywhere, and there were also some dried-up bones scattered everywhere. Pung! Not far ahead, there was a light that overflowed into the heavens. Some creatures had touched something and caused an unforeseen event. Several experts had also been killed. Rumble. The entire ground shook and was filled with killing intent. It blocked all of the surrounding creatures, and no one dared to rashly approach. Walala! Mysterious runes surged out from all around, covering the sky and covering the sun. It was as if they were alive, causing the surrounding creatures' expressions to change. A damaged ancient formation, but it's very powerful. Du Xiaofu looked up and saw some traces of an ancient formation. It was a damaged formation that had been left behind, and it should have been the protective formation of this place. However, it was still very powerful, enough to make ordinary Saint Realm cultivators feel apprehensive. Moreover, they didn't know what would happen inside this ancient land, so they didn't dare to barge in. This ancient formation is very powerful, but I seem to have seen it somewhere before. Dai Xingyu's clear eyes were filled with doubt. She looked forward as if she was inspecting something. Not long after, as the hand seal condensed, a light spread out from the hand seal and entered the damaged formation. Xingyu seems to be able to break the formation. Wang Ling Feng Han, Su Yangzi, and the others were all shocked, and their expressions changed inwardly. They also knew some talisman matrices and could feel that the incomplete matrix here was not ordinary. Now, Dai Xingyu seemed to be able to break the matrix. Her attainments were definitely not shallow. Although Du Xiaofu was a little surprised, he didn't find it too strange. Dai Xingyu's master was someone at the same level as Fu Yibai. Even Du Xiaofu had always suspected that among the five of them, only the East deity had yet to show himself. If he wasn't mistaken, Dai Xingyu's master was that East deity who had yet to show himself. Don't act rashly. After Dai Xingyu entered the formation, Du Xiaofu was naturally not at ease. After instructing Little Green, Little Tiger, and the others, he condensed hand seals and followed behind. Although this damaged formation was powerful, Du Xiaofu could still see through it. Moreover, with the talent of the Redbone Horse Monkey's bloodline soul, ordinary formations would not be able to stop Du Xiaofu. As for the other creatures, they saw Du Xiaofu and Dai Xingyu enter the damaged formation and were submerged in the damaged talisman script, but they didn't dare to enter. In the damaged formation, Dai Xingyu focused on breaking the formation, constantly condensing hand seals. Ao Wu, however, this damaged formation was profound and complex. It emitted violent fluctuations, and a monstrous energy fluctuation condensed into a ferocious beast head. It distorted the void and tried to devour Dai Xingyu. Dai Xingyu's expression changed. She had just made a slight mistake and activated this damaged formation. This kind of power was not something she could easily withstand. Right at this moment, Du Xiaofu appeared beside Dai Xingyu. A redbone horse monkey's shadow enveloped Dai Xingyu in an instant. The ferocious beast head roared and then disappeared. Within the redbone horse monkey's shadow, Dai Xingyu's expression changed. There was still some lingering fear in her heart. Come, let's go inside and take a look. Du Xiaofu smiled and enveloped Dai Xingyu in the redbone horse monkey's shadow. They then proceeded to break the formation. The redbone horse monkey's talent allowed it to ignore ordinary formations. This gave Du Xiaofu a huge advantage. If it was Dai Xingyu, even if Du Xiaofu could succeed, it would take a lot of time. After about half an hour, a huge building appeared in the damaged formation. It had an ancient green color and was perfectly preserved. It seemed to be built with a special material and was indestructible. It seemed to have been standing here for a long time. Zizi, the surface of the huge building was filled with electric arcs that contained the power of lightning. Chapter 22:56. Dai Xingyu looked around and said, "This place doesn't look simple. Maybe it used to be the main palace of this mountain gate." Du Xiaofu was very cautious. He also felt an unusual ancient aura here, especially one that contained the power of lightning. He gazed at the perfectly preserved Great Hall from afar. The mysterious runes on it were fluctuating, profound, and unfathomable. Then, Du Xiaofu's heart sank. This formation was actually very complete. There didn't seem to be any flaws. Brother Xiaofu, the formation in front doesn't seem to be damaged. Dai Xingyu had also noticed this, causing her expression to turn serious. She had nearly encountered great trouble with the incomplete formation earlier, and it was obvious that there was a complete formation around the perfectly preserved main hall. Once it was touched, it would likely lead to terrifying consequences. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath. This formation was complicated and came from ancient times. Not to mention whether he could break it. Even if he could, it was definitely not something that could be done in a day. Furthermore, this was a complete array and not a broken one. Du Xiaofu didn't know if the Redbone Horse Monkey Meridian Spirit innate skill would work. If the Redbone Horse Monkey Meridian Spirit innate skill lost its effect, he would immediately trigger the array and the consequences would be dire. Be careful. Let's go. After thinking for a while, Du Xiaofu gritted his teeth. The Redbone Horse Monkey wrapped around him and Dai Xingyu, and they headed towards the main palace. In the midst of nervousness, the two figures smoothly entered the main palace under the Redbone Horse Monkey's shadow. Du Xiaofu let out a sigh of relief. After entering the main palace, he withdrew the Redbone Horse Monkey's shadow. However, his expression changed. As far as the eye could see, the enormous hall was actually empty, and in the depths of the main palace, there was a huge hole. It was so deep that the bottom couldn't be seen. Zizi, it led to the depths of the ground. It was filled with an ancient aura. Occasionally, there would be flashes of lightning. Rumble. Suddenly, a loud rumbling sound came from the deep passageway. It was like thunder, and lightning surged out. It was dazzling and dazzling, illuminating the deep and vast hall. It was like a rising sun accompanied by runes that flickered fiercely. After that, it was submerged and returned to normal. There's a treasure, an absolute treasure. Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly lit up. Just now, the Redbone Horse Monkey's meridian soul had clearly sensed the aura of a precious treasure. This precious treasure was related to thunder and lightning. Xingyu, wait for me here. Don't move around recklessly. Du Xiaofu instructed Dai Xingyu, wanting to investigate deeper. Okay, Brother Xiaofu, be careful. Dai Xingyu nodded. She knew that with her strength, she would only be a burden. Du Xiaofu nodded. His body was wrapped in golden light, and he jumped into the deep pit. The enormous pit was like a tunnel leading to the 9 nether hells. It was unknown how deep it was. Electric arcs constantly appeared, and the sound of sizzling could not be heard. It echoed in this bottomless tunnel, adding to the terror. Du Xiaofu carefully went deeper. His Xin Qi circulated in the god's watchtower. He did not dare to be careless. He wanted to go deeper. The crackling sound of the electric arcs became more and more intense. Zizi, after an unknown period of time, a bright electric arc rushed out from the depths of the pit with crackling sounds. Zizi, Du Xiaofu did not dodge. He secretly circulated his thunder martial vein and allowed the electric arc to land on his body. When it came into contact with his body, it released a bright electric arc. It was dazzling and then disappeared into his body. Du Xiaofu focused. This was purposely probing. This electric arc was not ordinary, but fortunately, it was not to the extent that he was afraid. The main thing was that he did not know what dangers were hidden below. As he continued to go deeper, Du Xiaofu encountered more and more electric arcs rushing out. They were like thunder, carrying with them the sound of thunder. Not long after, Du Xiaofu also discovered many floating boulders. They seemed to be the building materials of the hall. There were also many huge white bones floating. They were glowing with a white color, as if they had been floating here for a very long time. The area below the deep pit became wider and wider. It was as if half of it was endless, and one could not see the end of it. Rumble. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu felt a chill. An exceptionally bright bolt of lightning had silently appeared behind him. It exploded with resplendent lightning and charged towards him. Circulating his thunder martial vein, Du Xiaofu wanted to absorb the lightning into his body. However, suddenly, a pair of dazzling eyes opened within the lightning. The eyes were scarlet red and exploded with lightning. It actually went around Du Xiaofu's back and drilled towards Du Xiaofu's forehead. Du Xiaofu was surprised and did not dare to be careless. He turned his body sideways and his feet moved like a deity. He dodged the lightning attack and retreated to the side. At this moment, Du Xiaofu saw clearly that the lightning was actually a meter-long electric snake. It was fluctuating with resplendent electric arcs. This electric snake was very strange. It was not condensed by lightning, but was completely alive. It was the size of a thumb and was covered in scales that flickered with electric arcs. The electric snake even spat out electric arcs as it floated in the air. Its scarlet eyes were filled with coldness as it stared at Du Xiaofu. What is this? Du Xiaofu was surprised. There was no record of this item in the heavenly spirit record. Qila, the tiny lightning snake, stared intently at Du Xiaofu and charged out once again. Lightning arcs were resplendent as runes filled the air. Despite its small size, an extremely impressive strength erupted from its tiny body. It was no weaker than an ordinary martial honorable. Du Xiaofu saw the item clearly. Although he was surprised by its power, he did not hold back. A purple electric arc surged out from his palm and directly shattered the electric snake. He then absorbed the power of lightning into his palm. Oh no! Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's hair stood on end. He seemed to have felt something and suddenly looked into the distance. At this moment, a resplendent electric arc shone in front of him. Pairs of cold eyes opened and filled the air as they flew towards him. Rumble. It was a group of densely packed lightning snakes. They were all the same as the ones Du Xiaofu had just killed. They had gathered into a group of snakes, and one couldn't see the end of them. They filled the void. This is not good. It's strange. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and sucked in a breath of cold air. The strength of those electric snakes was nothing, but now that there were so many of them, he didn't know if there were tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of them. That was absolutely terrifying. Even an ordinary Saint Realm cultivator would be exhausted to death if they were trapped inside. Rumble. Countless electric arcs hissed and spat out electric arcs. They gathered together and thunder rumbled. It was deafening, and the momentum was even more terrifying. Everywhere they passed, they seemed to be able to destroy everything. Hide. Du Xiaofu didn't want to fight it head-on. There were too many lightning snakes, and they were too frightening. They were accompanied by the power of thunder and lightning. He definitely couldn't fight it head-on. Who knew what other terrifying things were waiting for him? Chapter 22:57. Boom, the sound of thunder resounded, and the resplendent talisman engravings covered Du Xiaofu's body. He activated his thunder martial vein, and in an instant, purple electric arcs rippled, bringing with them the sound of thunder. At this moment, the electric snakes that covered the sky seemed to have sensed something. Suddenly, fear appeared in their eyes, and they did not dare to come closer. They hurriedly stopped in front of him, but they did not leave. With the help of the flashing electric light, Du Xiaofu saw a dense storm of electric snakes. Some were 1 meter long, and some were actually more than 3 meters long. They were even more powerful. When they gathered together, the scene was very frightening. Woo-woo, as if they were afraid of Du Xiaofu's thunder martial vein, these electric snakes did not dare to come closer. However, for some reason, they did not leave. They blocked in front of him, as if they were protecting something. They made woo-woo sounds, and the electric arcs flickered in and out, looking very ferocious. Du Xiaofu originally wanted to escape, but seeing that these electric snakes were really afraid of the thunder martial vein, he relaxed a lot. The treasure is inside. After that, Du Xiaofu furrowed his brows. His innate talent of the redbone horse monkey bloodline spirit could sense that the treasure he was looking for was behind this pile of lightning snakes. If he wanted to find the treasure, there was no way he could avoid this pile of lightning snakes. He didn't know what kind of place this was for such a strange thing to appear. Boom! Unable to dodge, Du Xiaofu did not want to waste any time. He activated his thunder martial vein, and in the midst of lightning and thunder, he crossed over. Accompanied by the sound of thunder, the void shook, and monstrous electric arcs flashed. Woo-woo, the densely packed electric snakes made woo-woo sounds, and they all retreated, fear in their eyes. Du Xiaofu quickly crossed over. These electric snakes did not dare to come close, so there was no need to attack to avoid causing any unforeseen events. He moved his body and quickly left. Looking at Du Xiaofu moving forward, these electric snakes did not dare to chase after him. Instead, They kept making buzzing noises, which gathered together to form a deafening thunderclap. After a while, Du Xiaofu managed to extricate himself from the densely packed lightning snakes. He could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Fortunately, the thunder martial vein seemed to be the nemesis of these lightning snakes. If they were to really fight, with so many lightning snakes to kill, the consequences would be terrifying. Passing through the densely packed electric arcs, Du Xiaofu didn't dare to stay any longer. He could also feel the aura of the treasure getting closer and closer. Continuing forward, the electric arcs inside became more and more resplendent. A particularly terrifying aura appeared. Ordinary cultivators would not be able to get close at all. Lightning flashed, and lightning radiance gushed out. Lightning talisman patterns appeared everywhere, causing the void to crack. It was dazzling and resplendent. Not long after, the void rumbled and electric arcs surged. In the vast void ahead, Du Xiaofu found the treasure under the guidance of the redbone horse monkey talent. Du Xiaofu was shocked. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Resplendent electric arcs brought along pitch-black cracks in the void. Blazing lightning radiance burst out, and an object about the length of an arm appeared. Its roots were completely connected by electric arcs, as if it had taken root in the depths of the void. It exploded with a dazzling light that was even more dazzling than the sun. This plant was very strange. It was silver-white in color and did not have a single leaf. However, it was in full bloom. It looked like a lotus, but it was not a lotus. It was densely covered with mysterious talisman scripts. Electric arcs were constantly crackling, and a surging aura was violently spreading in all directions. Crackle. As these electric arcs bloomed, they illuminated the vast space with a resplendent glow. A powerful thunderbolt energy filled the air, causing Du Xiaofu, who was wrapped in the thunder martial vein, to involuntarily feel his heart tremble. This thunderous force was too powerful. It was enough to make an expert at the peak of the initial stage of the Sage Realm retreat. Solar Thunder Root. This is the legendary Solar Thunder Root. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu could not help but exclaim. He recalled a plant that was exactly the same as the one he had seen in the records. This was the Solar Thunder Root. The Solar Thunder Root was a legendary treasure for the cultivators of the Thunder Profound. It could only be encountered by chance and not sought. It only existed in legends. No one could be sure whether the Solar Thunder Root existed or not. However, its value was not less than the 9 revolutions divine Lei Lian. It was said that if a cultivator of the Thunder Profound could obtain the Solar Thunder Root, it would be a trivial matter for them to achieve twice the results with half the effort. More importantly, it could be fused with the 5 veins. Once the Solar Thunder Root was planted deep in the body, one would be able to mobilize the thunderous force of the heaven and earth. The comprehension of the Thunder Profound would progress by leaps and bounds. Phew! Du Xiaofu took a deep breath. It was difficult for him to calm down the excitement in his heart. Du Xiaofu had already seen the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron, the space of the God Domain, and other treasures. Therefore, he would not be so excited about ordinary treasures. Under normal circumstances, Du Xiaofu wouldn't be so excited just because of the Sun Lightning Root. However, the Solar Thunder Root had a different value for Du Xiaofu now that he had the Thunder Martial Veins and was cultivating the Thunder Profound. Du Xiaofu knew that the Solar Thunder Root would bring great benefits to the Thunder Profound if he could obtain it. He could feel the resplendent Solar Thunder Root that was connected to the entire void. The surging power of thunder and lightning seemed to have formed a sea of thunder and lightning in the void. The electric arcs fluctuated as if they were about to converge into thunderbolts. Du Xiaofu reckoned that this was not an ordinary Solar Thunder Root. My goodness, this is an unexpected harvest. Du Xiaofu was pleasantly surprised. He hadn't expected that this place would give birth to such a legendary treasure. How could Du Xiaofu let go of such a treasure? An ordinary expert at the peak of the initial stage of the Sage Realm wouldn't dare to approach this Solar Thunder Root. However, Du Xiaofu wasn't an ordinary expert at the initial stage of the Sage Realm. Moreover, he was proficient in the Thunder Profound. The electric arcs fluctuated as the hand seals condensed. The resplendent lightning surged out and transformed into a huge purple thunderbolt hand seal. It contained the power of the thunder martial veins. Du Xiaofu wrapped the solar thunder root and sealed it in his hand. Qi-la. Suddenly, the electric arcs in the surroundings issued a strange sound. Then, an unusual energy quietly emerged. Du Xiaofu didn't know why this energy fluctuation made him feel a chill in his heart. It was an extremely dangerous aura. Qi. Suddenly, two groups of blazing lightning balls appeared in the front of the resplendent electric arcs. They were as big as two bright moons. The lightning was so resplendent that even Du Xiaofu felt dazzling. This is a living thing. He narrowed his eyes as he looked at the two bright moon-like lightning balls. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu felt goosebumps all over his body. Those two lightning balls were living things. They were two huge eyes. Du Xiaofu felt goosebumps all over his body. Suddenly, the outline of a huge object appeared in the void. It seemed as if it wanted to cover the entire void. Du Xiaofu's scalp began to tingle at this moment. A feeling of extreme danger crawled out from his heart,